Hello guys, welcome to Harry FLAX. So in this video, we will see what if Harry was raised by a female basilisk in the chamber and she fell in love with him as her precious little speaker. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Chamber's Heir. Little Harry Potter huddled in the darkness of his cupboard, nursing a bruised arm where Uncle Vernon had grabbed him. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning when Aunt Petunia tossed him a piece of toast. All because Dudley claimed Harry had pushed him, when really Dudley had tripped over his own feet. Freak, Vernon had spat, shoving Harry into the cupboard. No meals for 2 days. Tears leaked down Harry's cheeks. He was only 5, but already understood he wasn't wanted here. The Dursleys made that clear every day. I wish. Harry whispered to the darkness, I wish I could go somewhere else. Anywhere else. Something strange happened then. A warmth spread through Harry's chest, tingling down to his fingers and toes. The air around him seemed to compress, squeezing him like a tube. Harry gasped, and then the cupboard vanished. He fell forward onto cold, wet stone. Water soaked through his oversized hand-me-downs as he pushed himself up, blinking in confusion. This wasn't his cupboard. This wasn't Privet Drive at all. Harry stood in an enormous chamber with towering stone pillars carved with serpents. Water pooled on the floor, reflecting the eerie green light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. At the far end loomed a massive statue of a monkey-like face with a long beard. Hello. Harry's voice echoed. Is anyone here? No answer came. Just dripping water and his own rapid breathing. Harry took a tentative step forward, then another. His trainers squelched on the wet floor. The chamber was cold, much colder than his cupboard, and he hugged himself, shivering. A soft sound reached his ears, a whisper of scales sliding against stone. Harry froze, eyes darting around. There. Movement in the shadows behind a pillar. Something massive. Harry should have been terrified, but curiosity won out. He'd always been drawn to animals, the garden snakes were his only friends at Privet Drive. He would talk to them sometimes, and strangely, they seemed to understand. Who's there? Harry called, his voice steadier than he felt. The shadows shifted, and the largest snake Harry had ever seen slithered into view. No, not just a snake, this creature was enormous, at least 60 feet long, with vivid green scales and bulging yellow eyes. Harry stared in awe, forgetting any fear. The giant snake reared up, towering over him, its tongue flicking out to taste the air. A child? The voice wasn't spoken aloud but seemed to form directly in Harry's mind. A human child in my chamber? You can talk. Harry exclaimed, delighted rather than frightened. The massive serpent went very still. You understand me, little one? Course I do, Harry replied, not realizing he was speaking in hisses rather than English. I talk to garden snakes all the time. The serpent lowered her head closer to Harry. He noticed now that her eyes were different, covered with a milky film. A speaker. After all these centuries. The serpent circled around Harry, her massive body creating ripples in the shallow water. What is your name, little speaker? Harry. Harry Potter. He looked up at the massive creature without fear. What's yours? I am Sarah, the guardian of Slytherin's chamber and keeper of secrets. The basilisk seemed to consider him. How did you find your way here, Harry Potter? Harry explained about his uncle, the cupboard, and his desperate wish to be elsewhere. As he spoke, tears welled up again. Sarah listened, her great head lowered. The magic responded to your need, little speaker. It brought you somewhere safe. Magic isn't real, Harry recited automatically. Uncle Vernon says, your uncle is a fool, Sarah interrupted. Magic flows through your veins. I can sense it, strong, wild magic. You are a wizard, Harry Potter. Harry's eyes widened. A wizard? Like in stories? More real than any story. Saratha's tongue flicked out, tasting the air around Harry. You are young, even for a human hatchling. Where is your nest? Your dam and sire. My parents are dead, Harry said quietly. They died in a car crash when I was a baby. That's how I got this. He pushed back his fringe to reveal the lightning bolt scar. Saratha hissed sharply. That is no ordinary mark. It reeks of dark magic. Before Harry could ask what that meant, his stomach growled loudly. You are hungry, Saratha observed. Wait here, little speaker. The basilisk disappeared down a dark tunnel. Harry sat on a relatively dry patch of stone, wondering if he was dreaming. Uncle Vernon would be furious when he discovered Harry missing. Or maybe they'd be glad to be rid of him. Saratha returned shortly, dropping something at Harry's feet. A dead rat. Harry stared at it, uncertain. You do not eat them whole. Saratha sounded confused. No, we, cook them. Or usually eat other things. What do human hatchlings eat? Bread, fruit, vegetables. Meat like chicken or beef, but cooked over fire. Saratha considered this. There is food above, in the castle. I cannot go there, too many humans, but there are other ways. Castle? What castle? Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. We are far beneath it. Harry's head spun with questions, but Saratha was already moving toward another tunnel. Follow me, little speaker. There are chambers where Salazar kept provisions. Perhaps some remain. Harry followed the basilisk through twisting passages until they reached a smaller room with shelves carved into the walls. Surprisingly, some held jars and containers that looked untouched by time. Preservation charms, Saratha explained, sensing Harry's question. Magic keeps them fresh. Harry approached the shelves. The jars contained what looked like dried fruits, nuts, and other preserved foods. His stomach rumbled again. Is it safe to eat? He asked. For a wizard, yes. The magic sustains it. Cautiously, Harry opened a jar of what appeared to be dried apples. They tasted sweet and fresh, not centuries old as they must be. He devoured them hungrily, then tried some nuts from another container. As he ate, Harry studied the massive serpent. What kind of snake are you, Saratha? I've never seen one so big. I am a basilisk, most powerful of serpents. There was pride in her voice. My gaze brings death to all who meet it. My venom dissolves all it touches. Harry froze mid-bite. Your gaze kills. Fear not, little speaker. I have drawn my killing membrane. See how my eyes are clouded? I will not harm you. But why? Harry asked. Why not kill me? Saratha lowered her massive head until it was level with Harry. You are a speaker, one who talks with serpents. Such gifts are rare and precious. Salazar himself was a speaker, and made me to protect his students, not harm them. Who's Salazar? Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. This chamber was his sanctuary. Harry's eyes grew heavy as his belly filled. The day's events, Uncle Vernon's anger, the magical transport, meeting Saratha, had exhausted him. You need rest, little speaker, Saratha observed. Come. She led him to yet another chamber, smaller and drier than the main one. A stone platform held what might have once been a bed, though the linens had long since rotted away. Sleep here. You are safe. Too tired to question further, Harry curled up on the stone. It was hard and cold, but no worse than his cupboard. Saratha's massive body circled the platform, providing a wall of warmth. Sleep, little hatchling. Tomorrow we will speak more. Harry drifted off, lulled by the basilisk's rhythmic breathing, feeling strangely at peace. Days passed, then weeks. Harry lost track of time in the chamber, where no sunlight penetrated. Seratha became his protector, provider, and teacher. The basilisk showed Harry hidden passages throughout the enormous network of chambers and tunnels. Some led to storerooms with ancient magical artifacts. Others connected to the pipes that ran throughout Hogwarts. "Can I go up and see the school?" Harry asked one day as they explored a passage that Seratha said led to the dungeons. "Not yet," Seratha replied. "The castle is empty for summer, but soon the halls will fill with students and teachers. You must learn more before revealing yourself." "Learn what?" "Magic. Control. The ways of both serpents and wizards." And learn he did. Seratha might be a serpent, but she possessed knowledge gained from centuries watching Slytherin and his descendants. She taught Harry to speak Parseltongue properly. He hadn't realized he was switching between it and English. "The gift comes naturally to you," Seratha explained, "but control requires practice." Harry spent hours each day hissing conversations with her, learning to feel the subtle difference between human speech and serpent language. Food remained a challenge until Harry discovered a passage that led to the Hogwarts kitchens. He would sneak up at night, filching fruits, bread, and cheese. The strange little creatures with bat-like ears who worked there, house elves, Seratha called them, never seemed to notice him. "Why do I have to hide?" Harry asked. "Couldn't I just live upstairs with the other wizards?" Seratha's body coiled protectively around Harry. "You are different, my little speaker. Humans fear what is different. They would not understand our bond. But I'm human too. Yes and no. You speak the serpent tongue. You bear a mark of powerful dark magic. You have been touched by forces most wizards fear." Harry frowned. "You mean my scar?" "Yes. It holds secrets even I cannot decipher." Harry had grown used to sleeping on the stone platform, which Seratha had made more comfortable by shedding her skin nearby. The paper-thin basilisk skin, when layered, made a surprisingly soft bed. Harry liked to wrap himself in it at night, feeling close to his protector. 3 months after his arrival, Seratha led Harry to a chamber he hadn't seen before. Unlike the damp main chamber, this room was perfectly dry, lined with shelves holding hundreds of books. "Salazar's private library," Seratha announced. "If you are to learn magic, you must begin here." Harry approached the ancient tomes reverently. Some were bound in leather, others in materials he couldn't identify. Many had serpents embossed on their spines. "I can't read very well," Harry admitted, embarrassed. At 5, he'd only just started school, and the Dursleys never encouraged his education. "Then that is where we begin," Seratha decided. "Reading is the gateway to knowledge." Using the simplest books in the collection, the Basilisk patiently taught Harry to read properly. She couldn't hold the books herself, but would direct him which to take down, which pages to turn. Her memory was flawless, she could recite entire passages after having heard them once, centuries ago. Harry proved a quick study. Within months, his reading improved dramatically. By his 6th birthday, which they celebrated with stolen cake from the Hogwarts kitchens, he was devouring books meant for much older children. The library contained texts on all manner of magic, potions, transfiguration, charms, and more obscure branches like blood magic and soul arts. Some books were written in Parseltongue script, which only a speaker could decipher. "Why doesn't everyone learn all types of magic?" Harry asked, noticing how some books warned of dark practices. "Humans divide magic into arbitrary categories, light and dark, good and evil," Seratha explained. "Serpents know better. Magic simply is, like water. It can nurture or drown. The intent matters, not the form." This philosophy shaped Harry's developing understanding of magic. Under Seratha's guidance, he began attempting simple wandless spells, lighting the tip of his finger like a torch, moving small objects without touching them. On particularly cold days, Harry discovered he could summon warmth to his body, a skill Saratha especially approved of. Magic flows through you naturally, she told him. Most wizards require wands to focus their power. Your connection is pure. By the time Harry turned 7, he had mapped much of the chamber's extensive network in his mind. He knew which passages led to different parts of the castle, though Saratha still forbade him from venturing into populated areas. But Harry grew curious about the world above. While Saratha slept, which she did for days at a time, he began testing the boundaries of her rules. His first real exploration came during Christmas break of what would have been his second year of primary school. The castle was nearly empty, with just a few students and staff remaining. Harry emerged from a hidden entrance behind a tapestry on the 3rd floor, heart pounding with excitement and fear. The corridor was deserted, lit by floating candles that fascinated him. He padded silently along the stone floor, marveling at the moving portraits that fortunately paid him little attention. He found his way to the great hall just as dinner was being served. Peering through a crack in the doors, Harry saw a single long table where about 20 people sat, mostly adults, with a handful of older students. At the center sat a man with a long silver beard and half-moon spectacles, radiating a gentle power that Harry could sense even from a distance. "Who's that?" he whispered to himself. "That's Professor Dumbledore, of course," replied a voice behind him. Harry whirled around, coming face to face with a transparent, pearly white figure of a girl about 14 years old. "You're a ghost." Harry gasped, then clapped his hand over his mouth. The ghost girl tilted her head curiously. "And you're out of bounds. You're much too young to be a student. Who are you?" I'm Harry," he stammered. "I'm Myrtle." She floated closer, peering at him. "You look like you live in a dungeon. All pale and dirty." Harry backed away. "I have to go." "Wait. I don't get many visitors," but Harry had already turned, racing back toward the safety of the secret passage. He slipped behind the tapestry just as he heard voices approaching, breathing hard with the thrill of his adventure. When he returned to the chamber, Saratha was still sleeping. Harry curled up beside her massive form, processing what he'd seen. The castle above was wonderful, bright and warm compared to the chamber's perpetual dimness and damp. Yet something held him back from revealing himself. The chamber was home now. Saratha was family. The thought of leaving her made his chest hurt. As Harry grew more confident, his explorations became bolder. He discovered the Hogwarts library, vastly larger than Slytherin's collection, though lacking the rare and forbidden texts. After midnight, when the castle slept, he would sneak in to read by wandless light. During one such excursion, he found a book on magical creatures that mentioned basilisks. The description horrified him. Of the many fearsome beasts that roam our land, none is more deadly than the basilisk, capable of living for hundreds of years. Its methods of killing are most wondrous, for aside from its deadly and venomous fangs, the basilisk has a murderous stare, and all who are fixed with the beam of its eye shall suffer instant death. Harry slammed the book shut, breathing heavily. The text portrayed basilisks as mindless killers, monsters to be feared and destroyed. Nothing like Saratha, who told him stories and taught him magic and curled protectively around him when he had nightmares. "They don't understand," he whispered fiercely to the empty library. "They don't know her." Harry returned to the chamber that night with a heavy heart, curling up beside Saratha's sleeping form. When she woke days later, he confronted her with his discovery. "Yes," she admitted. "Most humans view my kind with terror. Not without reason. Many basilisks are less discerning than I." "The book said you can control which eyes you see with," Harry said. "That you can close the outer lids to hide the killing gaze." "Indeed. I have kept my killing gaze shielded since you arrived. It requires constant vigilance on my part." Harry felt a rush of gratitude and love for this creature who had changed her nature for him. "Can you teach me? About your eyes, I mean. I want to understand." Saratha considered him for a long moment. "Perhaps it is time. You are growing into your magic, little speaker. She led Harry to a part of the chamber where water had pooled into a still, reflective surface. Look at your reflection, she instructed. Now, feel the magic within you. Direct it to your eyes. Harry concentrated, reaching for the now familiar warmth of his inner magic. He directed it upward, behind his eyes. Good. Now imagine a protective film, like my nictitating membrane. Visualize it sliding across your eyes, filtering your gaze. Harry did as instructed, picturing a transparent shield forming over his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his reflection blurred, and he gasped as he felt something slide across his eyeballs, not physically, but a layer of magic. Look at me now, Sarah commanded. Harry turned to face her, his magically shielded eyes meeting her clouded ones. You've done it, she said, satisfaction evident in her voice. Your gaze holds power now, not death like mine, but compulsion. You could bend weaker minds to your will if you wished. I don't want to control people, Harry said, disturbed by the notion. Nor should you, without grave cause. But understanding your abilities is necessary. The power of a speaker extends beyond mere communication with serpents. Over the following weeks, Harry practiced controlling this new ability. He learned to activate and deactivate the magical membrane at will, to strengthen or weaken its effect. When he tested it on a rat, the creature froze, completely docile under his gaze. Harry quickly released it, uncomfortable with the power. Why would Salazar create a power like this, he asked Sarah. Slytherin believed in preparedness above all. Better to have a power and choose not to use it than to need it and find yourself defenseless. Harry nodded slowly, accepting the lesson. Is there more? More speaker magic? Much more, but some aspects must wait until you are older. Your core is still developing. By his 8th birthday, Harry had established a routine. He spent mornings studying magic theory from Slytherin's books, afternoons practicing wandless spells, and evenings exploring the castle when safe. His appearance had changed from the scrawny, underfed child who arrived. Though still small for his age, regular meals, now supplemented by frequent kitchen raids, had filled out his frame. His skin had grown pale from limited sunlight and his movements had taken on a smooth, silent quality that Sarah called serpent grace. His hair remained untamable, but now reached his shoulders, as he had no means to cut it. His eyes, always vivid green, sometimes seemed to glow in the chamber's dim light, especially when he used his magical gaze. Sarah, Harry asked one evening as they rested in the main chamber, do you ever get lonely down here? Before I came, I mean. The basilisk was quiet for so long that Harry thought she might not answer. Yes, she finally admitted. The centuries of solitude were difficult. Basilisks are not social creatures by nature, but to be bound to this chamber, to speak to no one save the rare heir who found their way here, it was a kind of slow death. Harry leaned against her massive scales. I'm glad I found you. As am I, little speaker. Her tongue flicked out, brushing his cheek in a serpentine kiss. You have brought purpose back to my existence. Will I have to leave someday? To go to Hogwarts properly? That decision will come when you are 11, as all young wizards are. But you need never truly leave. This chamber will always be your sanctuary. The thought comforted Harry. He couldn't imagine life without Sarah now. As Harry grew more accomplished in wandless magic, he began to hunger for new challenges. Slytherin's library, while extensive, focused primarily on theory rather than practical application. I need to try more complex spells, he told Sarah. But some require special conditions. Such as? Like potion making. I've read all the theory, but I need ingredients, cauldrons, flames. Sarah considered this. There is another chamber you have not yet seen. Salazar's private workshop. But reaching it presents certain challenges. What kind of challenges? Slytherin valued intelligence above all. He placed a guardian to test those who sought his most precious knowledge. Harry's eyes lit with excitement. What kind of guardian? A sphinx. Ancient even in my youth. It poses riddles that must be answered correctly, or the seeker meets a grisly end. Any normal child might have been terrified, but Harry had spent 3 years with a basilisk as his surrogate mother. His sense of danger had shifted dramatically. When can we go? He asked eagerly. When you have prepared properly. The Sphinx's riddles test not just intelligence, but magical knowledge. Study for 1 more month. Then we shall see if you are ready. Harry threw himself into preparation with renewed vigor. He reread key texts on magical theory, memorized properties of rare ingredients, and practiced mental focus exercises that Sarah insisted would sharpen his wit. When the month had passed, Sarah led him to a passage they had never explored before. Unlike the damp tunnels of the main chamber, this corridor was perfectly dry, the walls carved with intricate runes that glowed faintly as they passed. These markings are protections, Sarah explained. They keep time at bay within the workshop, preserving all inside. The passage ended at a circular door of black stone, unmarked except for a small carving of a serpent in its center. Speak to it, Sarah instructed. Open, Harry commanded in Parseltongue. The serpent carving writhed to life, coiling into a spiral as the door split down the middle and slid apart, revealing a short corridor ending in an archway draped with shimmering silver mist. Beyond that veil waits the Sphinx. I cannot accompany you further. This test is yours alone. Harry swallowed hard, suddenly nervous. What happens if I fail? The Sphinx will devour you, Sarah stated matter-of-factly. But you will not fail, my little speaker. You have been well taught. Drawing courage from her confidence, Harry approached the archway. The silver mist parted at his touch, cool against his skin. He stepped into a perfectly circular room with a domed ceiling painted to resemble a night sky, stars twinkling realistically overhead. At the center sat a creature unlike any Harry had seen before, the body of a lion with the head of a woman. Her eyes, amber and slitted like a cat's, fixed on him immediately. A child, the Sphinx observed, her voice melodious yet ancient. It has been centuries since one so young sought entrance. Harry bowed slightly, remembering his magical history lessons. I am Harry Potter, speaker of serpents and student of Salazar's secrets. The Sphinx's tail swished with interest. Pretty words, little wizard. But the path forward requires more than speech. Answer my 3 riddles correctly, and the workshop is yours to explore. Fail, and, well. She smiled, showing pointed teeth. I understand, Harry said, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm ready for the first riddle. The Sphinx circled him once, her padded feet silent on the stone floor. Then she sat back on her haunches and recited, I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. What am I? Harry closed his eyes, visualizing the riddle's components. Cities without houses, mountains without trees, water without fish. The answer came suddenly. A map, he said confidently. The Sphinx inclined her head. Correct. The second riddle is this, passed from father to son, and shared between brothers. Its importance is unquestioned, though it is used more by others. What is it? This one was trickier. Harry ran through possibilities in his mind. What could be passed down but used by others? An heirloom? No, those weren't typically shared between brothers. A secret? Maybe, but that didn't feel right either. Then he remembered a passage from one of Slytherin's journals about the importance of family legacy. A name, Harry answered. A family name. The Sphinx's eyes narrowed slightly. Correct again, young speaker. Your final challenge, I am seen in the water if seen in the sky. I am in the rainbow, also up high. I am in the ocean, also in the sea. Say what I am, what could I be? Harry frowned, finding this riddle more difficult than the others. Something in water, sky, rainbows, and the ocean, what connected all these? He thought back to his lessons with Saratha on elemental magic. Water, air, these were two of the classical elements. But what would be in a rainbow? Colors? Light? The letter I appeared in all those words, but that seemed too simple. Then it clicked, the Sphinx was being literal. The letter I, Harry declared. It appears in the words water, sky, rainbow, high, ocean, and sea. For a moment, the Sphinx remained still, her face unreadable. Then she stood, bowing her head. You have answered all three riddles correctly, Harry Potter. Salazar's workshop is yours to explore. The wall behind her shimmered and vanished, revealing another doorway. A word of caution, young one, the Sphinx added as Harry moved toward the entrance. Knowledge without wisdom leads to ruin. Remember that as you study Slytherin's arts. Harry nodded solemnly. I will. Thank you for the test. Until our next meeting, the Sphinx replied, settling back into her watching position. Harry stepped through the doorway and gasped. Salazar Slytherin's private workshop was everything a budding magical prodigy could dream of. The circular chamber was divided into sections. One quadrant held a fully equipped potions laboratory with cauldrons of various materials, preserved ingredients in glass containers, and specialized tools arranged neatly on workbenches. Another section contained what appeared to be a dueling platform, surrounded by practice dummies made of wood and leather. A third area held a meditation circle inlaid with silver runes, while the final quarter contained a desk and drafting table covered with parchments and diagrams. The entire workshop looked as though Slytherin had stepped out mere moments ago, rather than 1,000 years past. The preservation charms were flawless. Harry wandered from section to section in awe, running his fingers over instruments he had only read about. Everything was scaled for an adult, but that wouldn't stop him from trying. A large grimoire lay open on the main desk, its pages covered in Parseltongue script. Harry leaned closer, deciphering the title, The Arte of Soul Magics. Before he could read further, he heard scales sliding against stone. Saratha had entered through a different passage. You succeeded, she observed, pride evident in her voice. The riddles weren't as hard as I expected, Harry admitted. The Sphinx adjusts her challenges to the seeker. Had you been older or more experienced, the riddles would have been far more difficult. Harry explored the workshop for hours, with Saratha explaining the purpose of various tools and instruments. By the time they returned to the main chamber, Harry's mind buzzed with possibilities. I can make actual potions now, he said excitedly. And practice real dueling techniques instead of just theory. Yes, but with caution. Some of Salazar's arts are dangerous, especially for one so young. I'll be careful, Harry promised. But this changes everything, Saratha. Now I can learn properly. The Basilisk seemed pleased with his enthusiasm but added a warning, magic performed in the workshop may be detectable to the professors above. Use it sparingly until you have mastered concealment charms. Harry agreed, though privately he could barely contain his excitement. Access to the workshop opened up countless new possibilities for his magical education. Over the following weeks, Harry divided his time between the main chamber, the library, and the workshop. He began with simple potions, healing salves and minor drafts that required minimal ingredients. To his surprise, he found he had a natural talent for the precise art. It's like cooking, he explained to Saratha. Except the results are a bit more dramatic than a burned breakfast. Your intuitive understanding of magic aids you, Saratha observed. Where others follow recipes blindly, you sense the interactions between components. Harry also discovered journals belonging to Salazar himself, written in a cramped hand that took practice to decipher, even in Parseltongue. These personal notes revealed a different picture of the founder than the history books portrayed, a complex man driven by fear for magical children during dangerous times, rather than simple prejudice. He wasn't entirely wrong about Muggles, Harry told Sarah after reading accounts of witch burnings. The Dursleys would probably have burned me at the stake if they knew what I can do. Fear drives much of human behavior, Sarah agreed. Both magical and non-magical alike. As Harry approached his 9th birthday, his wandless abilities had grown impressive. He could summon objects from across the chamber, transform small items into others, and even levitate himself for short periods, a skill that proved useful for reaching high shelves. His connection with Sarah deepened as well. The Basilisk had become not just a teacher but a parent in every meaningful sense. She protected him, guided him, disciplined him when necessary, and showed unmistakable affection in her serpentine way. Harry's explorations of the castle grew more ambitious as well. During one summer break, when the school stood nearly empty, he ventured as far as the astronomy tower, standing beneath the open sky for the first time in years. The stars overwhelmed him, so numerous and bright compared to the enchanted ceiling of the workshop. The fresh air filled his lungs, reminding him of a world beyond stone walls and hidden chambers. For a brief moment, he wondered what life would be like if he left the chamber for good, lived among other wizards, made human friends. But the thought of leaving Sarah alone again crushed him. She had waited centuries for a speaker. He couldn't abandon her. When he returned to the chamber that night, Sarah sensed his conflicted emotions. "You missed the world above," she observed. "Sometimes," Harry admitted. "But this is home." "For now," Sarah agreed. "But a day will come when you must walk both worlds. It is your birthright as both wizard and speaker." The thought simultaneously excited and terrified Harry. Each year that passed made the inevitable confrontation with the wider wizarding world loom larger. 2 months before Harry's 10th birthday, something unexpected happened. He was practicing in the workshop, attempting to brew a difficult potion of clarity that enhanced mental focus, when the Sphinx appeared in the doorway. "Young speaker," she said, startling Harry so badly he nearly dropped a vial of armadillo bile. "I didn't think you could leave your post," Harry said, carefully setting down the ingredient. "I am bound to this sanctuary, but not to a single chamber." The Sphinx padded forward, examining his work. "You have progressed quickly in your studies." "Thank you," Harry replied, uncertain why she had sought him out. The Sphinx circled his workbench once before speaking again. "A storm approaches, Harry Potter. I have watched the stars, and they speak of change." Harry frowned. "What kind of change?" "The world above stirs. The one who marked you grows restless, even in his diminished state." Harry's hand unconsciously touched his lightning scar. "You mean, the person who gave me this?" The Sphinx nodded. "You cannot hide forever in these chambers, young speaker. Destiny has marked you as surely as that scar." "Sarah says I'll go to Hogwarts when I'm 11, Harry said. "Is that what you mean?" "That is but the beginning." The Sphinx's amber eyes seemed to look through him. "Prepare yourself. Knowledge is your shield, but wisdom must be your guide." With that cryptic warning, the Sphinx turned and padded silently back toward her chamber, leaving Harry confused and uneasy. When he related the encounter to Sarah, the Basilisk fell unusually silent. "Do you know what she meant?" Harry pressed. "About the one who marked me?" "I have suspicions," Sarah finally replied. "There are whispers, even in these depths, of a dark wizard who sought dominion decades ago. A wizard who could speak to serpents, though his heart was cold. Another Parselmouth? Like me?" The idea both thrilled and disturbed Harry. "Yes, though he used the gift for control rather than communication. He came here once, many years ago, when he was but a student. His name was Tom Riddle." Did he talk to you?" "Yes. He commanded me to kill on his behalf." Saratha's voice held shame. "I was bound by ancient magic to obey a speaker. A girl died before he left the school." Harry stared at the massive serpent in shock. "You killed someone?" "It is my greatest regret," Sarah admitted. "When you came, I vowed never again to be used as a weapon. That is why I have taught you to respect all magic, to understand consequences." Harry processed this revelation slowly. The basilisk he loved had taken a human life. Yet he couldn't find it in himself to blame her. She had been used, her nature exploited by someone who shared his rare gift. "This Tom Riddle, is he the one who gave me my scar? Perhaps. There is dark magic in that mark unlike any I have sensed before. But only you can discover the truth, when the time comes." The Sphinx's warning and Saratha's revelation accelerated Harry's studies. If danger approached, if this mysterious Tom Riddle might return, he needed to be prepared. He spent more time in the workshop, mastering defensive potions and practicing shield charms. He studied Slytherin's journals with renewed intensity, particularly the passages dealing with protective magic. On a frigid December night, when Harry was a few months shy of 10, Saratha taught him his most advanced magic yet, how to sense the presence of others through vibrations in the stone and air. "Close your eyes," she instructed. "Feel the castle around you. Stone speaks to those who listen." Harry sat cross-legged in the main chamber, eyes shut tight, extending his magical senses outward. At first, he felt nothing but the chill dampness. Then, gradually, he became aware of subtle vibrations, the distant movement of staircases, the hum of the school's ancient wards, the footsteps of a professor patrolling corridors far above. "Good," Saratha approved. "This awareness will help you avoid detection during your explorations." Harry practiced this sensing ability until he could map much of the castle's activity without leaving the chamber. He learned to distinguish between the heavy tread of the gamekeeper, Hagrid, and the precise steps of Professor McGonagall. He could feel when the great hall filled with students for meals and when the library emptied for the night. This new awareness brought an unexpected revelation. On the 7th floor, Harry sensed a strange magical fluctuation, a room that seemed to appear and disappear, its dimensions shifting unpredictably. "There's something strange up there," he told Saratha. "A room that changes." "Ah, you have sensed the come-and-go room," Saratha replied. "Slytherin mentioned it in his journals, a chamber that becomes what the seeker needs. The elves call it the Room of Requirement." Harry resolved to investigate this magical room on his next exploration. The thought of a space that could transform itself fascinated him. His opportunity came during the Easter holidays, when most students had gone home. Harry slipped from the chamber after ensuring Saratha was deep in one of her periodic sleeps. He navigated the castle with practiced stealth, avoiding the few remaining students and staff. When he reached the 7th floor corridor, he paced back and forth, concentrating on what Saratha had told him about the room. "I need a place to practice magic safely," he thought intensely. "Somewhere no one will find me." On his third pass, a door materialized in the previously blank wall. Heart racing with excitement, Harry slipped inside. The Room of Requirement had transformed itself into the perfect practice space, open and airy, with cushioned flooring, practice dummies similar to those in Slytherin's workshop, and shelves of relevant books. "This is brilliant," Harry whispered, running his hands over the training equipment. For the next few hours, he practiced spells that required more space than the chamber afforded, particularly movement-based defensive magic. Without a wand, some spells remained beyond his reach, but his wandless abilities had grown impressive through years of necessity. Harry was so engrossed in his practice that he almost missed the subtle shift in the castle's energy. Someone was approaching the corridor outside. He froze, reaching out with his senses as Saratha had taught him. Footsteps. Light but purposeful. And a magical aura unlike any he'd sensed before, ancient and powerful. The door handle turned. Harry panicked, searching for a hiding place, but the room had no obvious concealment. In desperation, he activated his magical gaze, ready to attempt compulsion if necessary. The door swung open to reveal an elderly wizard with a long silver beard, half-moon spectacles, and robes patterned with moons and stars. Harry recognized him immediately from his brief observations of the Great Hall, Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of Hogwarts. The old wizard paused in the doorway, surprise evident on his face. For a long moment, they stared at each other in silence. "Well," Dumbledore finally said, voice gentle but curious, "this is unexpected. The wards informed me of unusual magic on this floor, but I certainly wasn't expecting to find a young visitor." Harry remained frozen, unsure whether to flee, fight, or speak. His magical gaze was active, but Dumbledore seemed completely unaffected. The headmaster stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "You've created quite a lovely training space. May I ask your name, young man?" Harry swallowed hard. After years in the chamber with only Seratha for company, speaking to another human felt strange. "Harry," he said finally. "Harry Potter." Dumbledore's eyebrows rose dramatically, and he leaned slightly on the door frame as if for support. "Harry Potter," he repeated softly. "My dear boy, you've been here all along." In his office, Professor Albus Dumbledore felt a strange magical pulse reverberate through the castle's ancient stones. The wards, keyed to alert him of unusual magical signatures, had detected something on the 7th floor. Fawkes, his phoenix companion, trilled questioningly from his perch. "Yes, I feel it too, old friend," Dumbledore murmured. "Peculiar magic. Not quite like anything I've felt before." Setting aside the ministry correspondence he'd been reviewing, Dumbledore rose from his desk. The Easter holidays meant the castle was quieter than usual, perhaps a perfect opportunity for mischief by the remaining students. He made his way to the 7th floor, following the magical signature. To his surprise, it led directly to the corridor housing the room of requirement, a space few students ever discovered. More curious still, the door was already visible, meaning someone had successfully called the room into existence. Dumbledore approached cautiously, sensing powerful magic emanating from within, wandless magic, if he wasn't mistaken. When he opened the door, the sight that greeted him struck him speechless. A small boy, no older than 9 or 10, with untamed black hair and startlingly green eyes, stood in a defensive posture in the middle of a training room. The boy's eyes were the most remarkable feature, they seemed to glow with an inner light, reminding Dumbledore of certain magical creatures rather than a human child. And then the boy spoke his name, and Dumbledore's carefully ordered world tilted on its axis. Harry Potter. The boy who lived. Missing for nearly 5 years, presumed dead by many in the wizarding world after disappearing from his Muggle relative's home without a trace. Yet here he stood, alive, healthy, and demonstrating magical control that should be impossible for a child his age. "Harry Potter," Dumbledore repeated softly. "My dear boy, you've been here all along." The boy's posture remained tense, ready for flight. Those unusual glowing eyes never left Dumbledore's face. "Not exactly," Harry replied cautiously. "I live below." "Below?" Dumbledore frowned slightly. "In the dungeons?" "Lower." Harry seemed to be weighing his words carefully. "In the chamber." A chill ran through Dumbledore that had nothing to do with the castle's drafts. "The Chamber of Secrets? But that's merely a legend." Harry's mouth quirked in a small, knowing smile. "It's real. I've lived there for years." "Alone?" Dumbledore asked, trying to comprehend how a child could survive in mythical underground chambers. Here, Harry hesitated. "No. With Seratha." "And who might Seratha be?" The boy's strange eyes seemed to look through Dumbledore, assessing him. Whatever decision he reached, he straightened his posture and spoke with surprising clarity. "She's a basilisk. The Basilisk of Slytherin. She's been taking care of me." If any other child had made such a claim, Dumbledore might have assumed it was fantasy. But the earnest certainty in Harry's voice, combined with the unusual magic emanating from him, gave the headmaster pause. "A basilisk," he repeated carefully. "Harry, basilisks are incredibly dangerous creatures." "Their gaze alone," "She keeps her killing gaze covered," Harry interrupted. "She's protected me, taught me. She would never hurt me." Dumbledore's mind raced, trying to process these revelations. If the Chamber of Secrets truly existed, if Slytherin's monster was real and had somehow bonded with Harry Potter. Harry, would you permit me to see your memories of this chamber? It would help me understand. The boy frowned. You mean legilimency? I've read about it. Another surprise, the boy recognized advanced magical concepts. Yes, though I would only look at what you chose to show me. Harry considered this, then nodded slowly. All right. But only memories of the chamber, not of Sarotha's secrets. Dumbledore drew his wand, moving slowly to avoid alarming the child. Look into my eyes, Harry, and bring forward the memories you wish to share. This won't hurt. The glow in Harry's eyes dimmed slightly as he made eye contact with the headmaster. Dumbledore whispered, legilimens, and gently entered the boy's organized mind. Images flowed past, a massive chamber with serpentine pillars, a stone platform covered with shed basilisk skin serving as a bed, shelves of ancient books written in strange script, a workshop with potions equipment sized for an adult, and glimpses of an enormous serpent, its features deliberately blurred in Harry's shared memory. Dumbledore withdrew carefully, masking his astonishment. Thank you, Harry. That was most illuminating. The boy watched him warily. Are you going to make me leave? The question carried such weight, fear, defiance, and a hint of sadness. Dumbledore considered his next words carefully. No, not immediately. Clearly, you have formed an unusual attachment to this creature. And your magical development is remarkable. I would like to understand more before any decisions are made. Relief flashed across Harry's face. I need to get back. Sarotha will worry if she wakes and I'm gone. Of course. But Harry, would you be willing to meet with me again? Perhaps tomorrow evening. Harry hesitated, then nodded. I'll come to your office. I know where it is. Before Dumbledore could respond, the boy darted past him with surprising speed, disappearing through the door and down the corridor. The headmaster remained in the room of requirement for some time after, processing what he'd learned. Harry Potter, raised by a basilisk in Salazar Slytherin's legendary Chamber of Secrets. The implications were staggering. He would need to approach this situation with extreme caution. The boy clearly possessed unusual abilities and knowledge. Separating him from his serpentine guardian could prove disastrous, yet allowing a child to continue living in secret chambers with a deadly magical creature defied all conventional wisdom. One thing was certain, the magical world's expectations for their boy who lived would need significant adjustment. Harry raced through the castle corridors, heart pounding. He hadn't meant to be discovered, especially not by Dumbledore himself. What would Sarotha say? Would she be angry? Frightened? He slipped behind a tapestry concealing one of the many secret entrances to the pipe network, sliding down to the familiar damp tunnels below. His mind whirled with the implications of his encounter. Dumbledore hadn't seemed hostile, surprised, certainly, but not threatening. He hadn't immediately demanded that Harry leave the chamber or tried to harm Sarotha. That was something. When Harry reached the main chamber, he found Sarotha still sleeping, her massive coils wrapped around the central pillar. He sat beside her, waiting anxiously for her to wake. Hours passed before the basilisk stirred, her enormous body uncoiling as she tasted the air with her tongue. You are troubled, little speaker, she observed immediately. Harry took a deep breath. I met someone. The headmaster, Dumbledore. Sarotha went very still. Tell me everything. Harry recounted his exploration of the Room of Requirement and his unexpected encounter with Dumbledore, including the memory sharing and the promise to meet again. This complicates matters, Sarotha said when he finished. Albus Dumbledore is a powerful wizard with his own ideas about what is best for others. Will he try to take me away from you? Harry asked, voicing his deepest fear. Perhaps. But you are not defenseless, my little speaker. You have grown in power and knowledge. He wants me to meet him tomorrow evening. Should I go? Sarah considered this. Yes. Better to know his intentions than to hide and wonder. But be cautious. Humans are skilled at deception, even well-meaning ones. Harry nodded, resolving to prepare carefully for his meeting with the headmaster. The following evening, Harry made his way through the castle with extra caution. When he reached the stone gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office, he hesitated. "I'm supposed to meet Professor Dumbledore," he told the statue. To his surprise, the gargoyle leapt aside, revealing a spiral staircase. Harry ascended slowly, gathering his courage. The office door swung open before he could knock. Dumbledore stood within, smiling gently. "Good evening, Harry. Thank you for coming. Please, make yourself comfortable." Harry entered cautiously, immediately taking in every detail of the circular office. Portraits of elderly witches and wizards lined the walls, many pretending to sleep but clearly watching him through slitted eyes. Silver instruments whirred and puffed on spindly tables. And on a golden perch sat the most beautiful bird Harry had ever seen, crimson and gold plumage gleaming in the candlelight. "That's Fawkes, my phoenix companion," Dumbledore explained, following Harry's gaze. "I've read about phoenixes," Harry said. "Sarah told me they're among the most magical creatures." "Indeed they are." Dumbledore gestured to a comfortable chair across from his desk. "Would you care for some hot chocolate? The elves make it exceptionally well." Harry nodded, realizing he was hungry. When a steaming mug appeared on the desk before him, he sipped it cautiously, then with more enthusiasm. "Now then," Dumbledore said when Harry had relaxed slightly, "I have many questions, as I'm sure you can imagine. But perhaps you have some for me as well?" The direct approach surprised Harry. He'd expected interrogation, not conversation. "Why did you leave me with the Dursleys?" The question burst from him before he could consider it. "They hated me. Called me a freak." Sadness crossed Dumbledore's face. "I had my reasons, Harry, though I see now they may have been flawed. Your mother's sacrifice created powerful protective magic. Living with her blood, your aunt, maintained those protections. They were awful to me," Harry said flatly. "Sarah has been more family to me than they ever were." "And that is a matter we must discuss," Dumbledore replied gently. "How did you come to find the Chamber of Secrets, Harry? It has been lost for centuries." Harry described his accidental magic transporting him from his cupboard directly to the chamber, and his first meeting with Sarah. "Fascinating," Dumbledore murmured. "And the Basilisk, Sarah, you call her, she recognized you as a Parselmouth and chose to protect rather than harm you?" "Yes. She says speakers are rare and precious. She's been alone for so long. And she has taught you magic?" "Without a wand." Harry nodded. "Slytherin left a library and a workshop. I've been learning from his books. Sarah helps explain things. May I see your wandless abilities, Harry? I confess I'm quite curious." Harry hesitated, then raised his hand toward an empty teacup on Dumbledore's desk. With barely a thought, he levitated it, spun it in midair, then transformed it into a small glass snake before returning it to its original form and setting it down gently. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Most impressive for a wizard of any age, let alone one so young. And without formal training. "Sarah says magic is about intent and understanding, not just words and wands," Harry explained. "A perspective with merit," Dumbledore acknowledged. "Now, Harry, we must discuss your future. You are approaching the age when you would normally receive your Hogwarts letter." "I want to attend Hogwarts," Harry said quickly. "But I won't abandon Sarah. She needs me." Dumbledore steepled his fingers. "The presence of a basilisk beneath a school full of children presents obvious concerns, Harry." "She's not dangerous," Harry protested. "She keeps her killing gaze covered. She only hunts in the Forbidden Forest, and only at night when no one's around." I believe you believe that, Dumbledore said carefully. But history suggests basilisks cannot be fully tamed. Harry's eyes began to glow slightly as his emotions rose. Seratha isn't tamed. She's family. She chose to protect me. I won't let anyone hurt her. Dumbledore observed the magical manifestation with interest. Your eyes, Harry, that's a most unusual ability. Realizing his magical gaze had activated, Harry quickly suppressed it. Sorry. It happens sometimes when I'm upset. No apology necessary. But it does illustrate my point about unusual magical development. Dumbledore sighed. I propose a compromise. You may continue to live in the chamber and maintain your relationship with Seratha, provided certain safeguards are established. Harry looked up hopefully. What kind of safeguards? I would need to meet Seratha myself, to assess the situation properly. And we must establish rules about her hunting and movement within the castle. Additionally, you would need to live partially above ground, sleeping in a dormitory, attending classes, forming relationships with your peers. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than Harry had feared. I think Seratha would agree to meet you. But you can't look directly at her. I am aware of basilisk lore, Harry, Dumbledore smiled. I shall take appropriate precautions. When might such a meeting be arranged? Tomorrow night. In the main chamber. That would be acceptable. Perhaps you could show me the entrance you use? Harry described the entrance behind the tapestry on the third floor, and how to navigate the pipe system to reach the main chamber. As their meeting concluded, Dumbledore asked one final question. Harry, there's something I've been curious about. Your scar, has it ever pained you during your time in the chamber? Harry touched the lightning bolt mark reflexively. Sometimes. Usually when I'm having nightmares about green light and high-pitched laughter. Concern flickered across Dumbledore's face. I see. We shall discuss that further another time. For now, rest well, and I shall see you and your unique guardian tomorrow evening. As Harry left the office, Dumbledore remained seated, deep in thought. The boy who lived had returned, but in a form no one could have predicted. Raised by a basilisk, fluent in Parseltongue, practicing obscure magic from Salazar Slytherin's personal collection. The wizarding world's expectations would indeed need adjustment. And Dumbledore himself would need to reconsider many of his assumptions about destiny, prophecy, and the nature of power. In the chamber, Harry recounted his meeting with Seratha. So the old wizard wishes to meet me, she hissed thoughtfully. After a millennium guarding these chambers, I shall finally face a Hogwarts headmaster. Are you worried? Harry asked. Cautious, but not fearful. Dumbledore's power is legendary, but he will not risk harming me while we are bonded. Harry leaned against her scales. I don't want to leave you to live in a dormitory. Change comes to all things, my little speaker. Perhaps it is time for you to walk in both worlds, as I have always known you must. As Harry drifted to sleep that night, he sensed unfamiliar magic stirring in the castle above, ancient power responding to new possibilities. Whatever happened tomorrow would change everything. In his tower office, Albus Dumbledore felt it too, a shift in the magical currents flowing through Hogwarts. The castle itself seemed to be adjusting, preparing for something unprecedented. Curious times ahead, Fawkes, he murmured to his phoenix companion. Very curious indeed. Chapter 2, Between Two Worlds. The meeting between Dumbledore and Seratha changed everything. Harry led the headmaster through the winding pipes to the main chamber, his heart pounding with anxiety. When they arrived, Seratha was waiting, her massive form coiled regally around Slytherin's statue. Remember, Harry hissed nervously in Parseltongue, he's here to help us stay together. I understand, little speaker, Seratha replied. I shall be diplomatic. Dumbledore approached cautiously, his eyes fixed on the floor rather than the basilisk's face. Remarkable, he murmured. Truly remarkable. What followed was the strangest conversation of Harry's young life. The ancient wizard and the 1,000-year-old basilisk negotiating terms through Harry's translations, each measuring the other's intentions. By the end, they'd reached an uneasy agreement. Harry would attend Hogwarts properly when he turned 11, living in whichever house dormitory the sorting had assigned. But he could visit Sarah regularly, and she would maintain access to the Forbidden Forest for hunting through a passage Dumbledore would help secure. Most importantly, her existence would remain secret from the rest of the school, a compromise that protected both Sarah and the students. "Your mother would be proud of your loyalty," Dumbledore told Harry as they left the chamber later that night. Though perhaps startled by its recipient. The months leading up to Harry's 11th birthday passed in a blur of preparation. Dumbledore arranged private tutoring sessions to help Harry adjust to human interaction and fill gaps in his unconventional education. Professor McGonagall taught him basic transfiguration theory, while tiny Professor Flitwick helped refine his already impressive wandless magic into proper spell forms. Extraordinary control for one so young, Flitwick squeaked during their first session. But wand work follows different principles than pure intent magic. You'll need to adjust your approach. Only Severus Snape seemed disturbed rather than impressed by Harry's abilities. Parseltongue is exceedingly rare, the potions master observed during their first meeting, dark eyes boring into Harry's. The last known speaker was the Dark Lord himself. Harry met his gaze steadily. "Sarah says it's a gift, not a curse. It depends how you use it." Snape's lip curled. "Indeed. And how do you intend to use it, Mr. Potter?" "To protect those I care about," Harry answered simply. Something flashed in Snape's eyes, recognition, perhaps, or memory. "We shall see." On the morning of Harry's 11th birthday, an owl swooped into the chamber, a feat previously thought impossible due to the ancient wards. It dropped a thick envelope onto Harry's makeshift bed before flying back up through a pipe so narrow it shouldn't have fit. "My Hogwarts letter!" Harry exclaimed, breaking the wax seal. Sarah slithered closer, her tongue flicking with interest. "Open it, little speaker. Though we know what it contains." Harry pulled out the heavy parchment, reading aloud, "Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confeed, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress." Harry grinned, scanning the supply list. "Dumbledore said I'll need to get my school things from Diagon Alley." "Yes. It is time for you to walk in the world above." There was a mixture of pride and sadness in Saratha's voice. "You must begin to build your own nest, little one." "I'll still come see you every day," Harry promised, leaning against her scales. "Nothing will change that." But they both knew everything was already changing. 3 days later, Harry stood in Dumbledore's office, dressed in proper wizarding robes the headmaster had provided. They felt strange after years of cast-offs and transfigured clothing. "You look quite presentable," Dumbledore observed. "Though perhaps we should do something about your hair before our excursion." Harry's hand went to his long, wild locks that reached past his shoulders. "What's wrong with my hair?" "Nothing inherently. But you will attract significant attention regardless, being who you are. Your appearance is distinctive." "I like it long," Harry said defensively. Sarah often told him it made him look more serpent-like, which he took as a compliment. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Very well. A simple grooming charm, perhaps." With a flick of his wand, Dumbledore tamed Harry's hair into something less wild, though still long and tied back with a leather cord. "Now then, have you ever traveled by flow powder?" Harry shook his head. "It's quite straightforward. You throw this powder into the flames." Dumbledore held up a pot of glittering powder. "Step in when they turn green, and clearly state your destination. Keep your elbows tucked in and your eyes shut. Ready to try? Harry eyed the fireplace nervously but nodded. After years facing Slytherin's various magical challenges, a bit of fire didn't scare him. Minutes later, he tumbled out of a fireplace into a dimly lit pub, coughing on soot. Dumbledore stepped through behind him with considerably more grace. "Welcome to the Leaky Cauldron, Harry," the headmaster said, helping him up. "Gateway to Diagon Alley." The pub fell silent as people noticed Dumbledore. Then their eyes shifted to Harry, widening in recognition. "Bless my soul," the barkeeper whispered. "It's Harry Potter." The next few minutes passed in a blur as witches and wizards crowded around, trying to shake Harry's hand. He instinctively activated his magical gaze, making his eyes glow subtly. The crowd backed up a step, unsettled. "Fascinating defense mechanism," Dumbledore murmured. "But perhaps not necessary. Come along, Harry." They escaped to a small courtyard behind the pub. Dumbledore tapped a pattern on the brick wall, which folded away to reveal a bustling, colorful street that made Harry's eyes widen. Diagon Alley was everything Sarah had described from her memories of the wizarding world centuries ago, but brighter, louder, more vibrant. Shops sold everything from cauldrons to owls, robes to racing brooms. People hurried about in robes of every color, calling greetings and haggling over prices. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" Dumbledore said kindly. "We shall start with Gringotts. You'll need funds for your supplies." The Goblin Bank proved another shock. Sarah had taught Harry about magical beings, but meeting actual goblins, with their suspicious eyes and sharp teeth, was different from reading about them. "Mr. Potter wishes to access his vault," Dumbledore informed the goblin teller. "And does Mr. Potter have his key?" the goblin asked, peering down at Harry. Dumbledore produced a tiny golden key. "I've kept it safe until now. It's time Harry took possession." The cart ride to his vault left Harry exhilarated, the speed and drops reminded him of sliding through Hogwarts' pipe system. When the vault door opened to reveal mounds of gold, silver, and bronze coins, Harry gasped. "My parents left me all this?" "Indeed," Dumbledore confirmed. "The Potters were an old family. This is merely your trust vault. The family vault awaits your maturity." Harry filled a pouch with coins, thinking how strange it was to suddenly have wealth after years of making do with whatever he could find or transfigure. Back in the alley, they started with Madame Malkin's for robes. Harry stood awkwardly on a footstool as a witch pinned black fabric around him. Another boy was being fitted nearby, with a pointed face and white blonde hair. "Hogwarts too?" the boy asked. "Yes," Harry replied cautiously. Aside from the professors, this was his first conversation with someone his own age. "My father's next door buying books, and mother's up the street looking at wands," the boy drawled. "Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. First years aren't allowed brooms, but I think I'll smuggle one in somehow." Harry just nodded, unsure how to respond to such entitled chatter. "Have you got your own broom?" the boy continued. "No," Harry said. "I've never flown." The boy looked shocked. "Never flown? Where have you been living? Are you Muggle-born?" "No, I don't think they should let the other sort in, do you? They're just not the same, haven't been raised to know our ways." Harry felt a flash of irritation. "Actually, I was raised by a basilisk beneath Hogwarts Castle." The boy stared, then laughed. "Good one. I'm Draco Malfoy, by the way. You'll learn some wizarding families are better than others. I can help you there." Before Harry could respond, Madame Malkin announced, "You're done, my dear," and Harry gladly hopped down from the stool. "See you at Hogwarts, I suppose," Draco called as Harry left with his wrapped packages. Dumbledore, waiting outside, raised an eyebrow. "Making friends already?" "Not exactly," Harry muttered. Their next stop was Flourish and Blot's bookshop, where Harry had to be practically dragged away from the shelves. He'd developed an insatiable appetite for knowledge living in Slytherin's library, and the wealth of new books tempted him to spend all his gold at once. "You'll have access to the Hogwarts library soon enough," Dumbledore reminded him, steering Harry toward the required textbooks. The apothecary fascinated Harry with its barrels of slimy ingredients and jars of herbs. Having brewed potions in Slytherin's workshop for years, he identified most items without reading labels. "Powdered bicorn horn is shelved incorrectly," he told the shopkeeper, who looked startled. "It shouldn't be stored near armadillo bile. They react." Dumbledore's eyes twinkled as the flustered apothecary rearranged his shelves. Finally, they reached Ollivander's, a narrow shop with a single wand on a faded cushion in the window. Harry felt the magic humming within before they even entered. "Good afternoon," came a soft voice as they stepped inside. An old man with wide, pale eyes emerged from the shadows. "Ah, yes. Harry Potter. I've been wondering when I'd see you." Mr. Ollivander moved closer, examining Harry's scar. "I'm sorry to say I sold the wand that did that. 13.5 inches. You. Powerful wand, very powerful, and in the wrong hands." He spotted Dumbledore and bowed slightly. "Albus. Elm and phoenix feather, 11 inches, as I recall." "Close, Garrick. Elder and phoenix feather," Dumbledore corrected gently. Of course. "Now, Mr. Potter. Which is your wand arm?" "I use both," Harry answered, having trained ambidextrously in the chamber. "But I write with my right." Interesting. Ollivander measured Harry from shoulder to finger, wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and around his head. "Every Ollivander wand has a core of powerful magical substance. We use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and dragon heartstrings." He selected a wand from the thousands of narrow boxes lining the walls. "Try this. Beechwood and dragon heartstring. 9 inches. Harry took it, but Ollivander snatched it back almost immediately. No. Try this. Maple and phoenix feather." Wand after wand, nothing felt right. The pile of rejected wands grew higher, but Ollivander seemed increasingly delighted. "Tricky customer. Excellent. Not to worry, we'll find your perfect match." "I wonder, yes, why not? Unusual combination, holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." The moment Harry's fingers closed around it, warmth rushed up his arm. He raised the wand and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of green and silver sparks. Ollivander clapped, but then frowned thoughtfully. "Curious, very curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. The phoenix who gave the feather for your wand gave just one other. Its brother gave you that scar." Harry felt cold despite the shop's stuffiness. "You mean Voldemort's wand?" Ollivander flinched at the name. "We expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things." "Terrible, yes, but great." Harry paid 7 gold galleons for his wand, disturbed by the connection to the wizard who'd killed his parents. "Don't let it trouble you overmuch," Dumbledore advised as they left. "The wand chooses the wizard, but it's our choices that define us, not our instruments." Their final stop was Elop's Owl Emporium, where Dumbledore insisted on buying Harry a birthday present. Harry left with a beautiful snowy owl, who regarded him with amber eyes that reminded him oddly of the sphinx guarding Slytherin's workshop. "What will you name her?" Dumbledore asked as they headed back toward the leaky cauldron. Harry considered. Hedwig, he decided, remembering a name from one of the history books in Slytherin's library. As they prepared to fly back to Hogwarts, Harry felt both excited and anxious. The wizarding world was vibrant and fascinating, but also overwhelming after years in the chamber's peaceful isolation. "You navigated your first excursion admirably," Dumbledore observed. "How do you feel?" Like I'm caught between two worlds, Harry admitted. Not sure where I belong. Dumbledore nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps, in time, you'll find you belong in both. September 1st arrived too quickly. Though Harry had spent the past month living in guest quarters at Hogwarts to acclimatize, the prospect of joining hundreds of students terrified him. Sarah had tried to reassure him during their daily visits. You have faced a sphinx and solved her riddles, she reminded him. Human children pose far less threat. Now, standing on platform 9 3/4 amid the chaos of families saying goodbye, Harry wasn't so sure. Dumbledore had escorted him to King's Cross, explaining it was important he arrive with the other students rather than already being at the castle. Blend in as much as possible, the headmaster advised before departing. Your situation is already unusual enough without additional mysteries. Harry found an empty compartment at the back of the Scarlet steam engine and settled in with a book on defensive magic. He'd decided reading would be safer than attempting conversation with strangers. The door slid open just as the train began moving. A tall, gangly boy with red hair poked his head in. Mind if I sit here? Everywhere else is full. Harry nodded, and the boy dropped into the seat opposite him. I'm Ron. Ron Weasley, he introduced himself. Harry Potter, Harry replied, waiting for the inevitable reaction. Ron's eyes widened. Are you really? Do you have the, you know? He gestured toward his forehead. Reluctantly, Harry pushed back his fringe to reveal the lightning scar. Wicked, Ron breathed. So that's where you know who? Yes, Harry said shortly. But I don't remember it. That was partly true. He remembered green light and high-pitched laughter from his nightmares, but nothing coherent. Anyway, Harry changed the subject. Are all your family wizards? This successfully diverted Ron into talking about his 5 older brothers and younger sister. Harry listened with fascination to stories of a normal wizarding household, so different from the chamber's isolation or the Dursleys' neglect. Their conversation was interrupted when the compartment door slid open again. A round-faced boy peered in tearfully. Sorry, but have you seen a toad? I've lost mine. No, sorry, Ron answered. The boy looked miserable. He keeps getting away from me. I'm Neville, by the way. Neville Longbottom. I might be able to help, Harry offered, setting his book aside. I'm good with animals. Neville looked hopeful. Really? Gran will kill me if I lose Trevor on the first day. Harry closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses as Sarah had taught him. The train's vibrations made it difficult, but he could detect various small creatures scattered throughout the carriages. Try the prefect's bathroom, he suggested, opening his eyes. I think there's a toad near water. Neville gaped at him. How do you know that? Harry shrugged. Just a feeling. Worth checking, right? After Neville left, Ron stared at Harry. What was that about? Just something I learned, Harry said vaguely. So, what house do you think you'll be in? This launched Ron into another comfortable monologue about Gryffindor traditions in his family, only interrupted when the snack trolley arrived. Harry, excited to try wizarding sweets he'd only read about, bought some of everything to share. As the countryside flew past, more visitors stopped by. Neville returned triumphantly with his toad, confirming Harry's unlikely prediction. A bushy-haired girl named Hermione Granger appeared, already wearing her Hogwarts robes and speaking at rapid-fire pace. Are you really Harry Potter? She asked after introducing herself. I've read all about you. You're in modern magical history, the rise and fall of the dark arts, and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Am I? Harry asked, genuinely surprised. What do they say? Well, that you survived the killing curse when you were a baby, and you know who disappeared. No one knows where you've been living since then. Some books suggested you were being trained in secret, others that you were living with muggles. Harry smiled faintly. The books got it wrong. Before Hermione could interrogate him further, the compartment door slid open yet again. Draco Malfoy stood there, flanked by two large boys who resembled junior trolls. "They're saying Harry Potter's in this compartment," Draco announced. His eyes fixed on Harry. "So it's you. We met at Madame Malkin's." "Yes," Harry replied coolly. "I remember." Draco gestured to his companions. "This is Crabbe and Goyle. And I'm Malfoy, Draco Malfoy." Ron gave a slight cough, which might have been hiding a snigger. Draco glared at him. "Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. Red hair, hand-me-down robes, you must be a Weasley." He turned back to Harry. "You'll soon find some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there." He extended his hand, but Harry didn't take it. "I think I can tell the wrong sort for myself, thanks," he said quietly, his eyes beginning to glow faintly. Draco stepped back involuntarily. "What's wrong with your eyes?" "Nothing," Harry said, letting the magical gaze fade. "Just a trick of the light." Malfoy recovered his composure. "Be careful, Potter. Unless you're a bit politer you'll go the same way as your parents." They didn't know what was good for them, either. Harry stood up, suddenly seeming taller than his height would suggest. "I recommend you leave now," he said, his voice taking on a slight hiss that made Crabbe and Goyle shift uncomfortably. Something in Harry's demeanor convinced Malfoy not to push further. "We'll see who makes the right choices at Hogwarts, Potter," he said before backing out. After they left, Ron whistled. "That was brilliant. But how did you make your eyes do that?" "Do what?" Harry asked innocently, returning to his seat. Hermione was watching him with narrowed eyes. "That wasn't accidental magic. That was controlled." Harry shrugged. "We should change into our robes. I expect we'll be arriving soon." The subject was dropped as they prepared for arrival, but Harry caught Hermione studying him with increased interest. The traditional journey across the lake gave Harry his first view of Hogwarts from the outside, a magnificent castle with towers and turrets silhouetted against the starry sky. He'd lived beneath it for 6 years without ever seeing its full glory. As the first-year students gathered in the entrance hall, Harry sensed the ancient magic of the castle welcoming him, recognizing him as both resident and newcomer. Professor McGonagall led them into the great hall, where hundreds of students sat beneath a ceiling bewitched to look like the night sky. The Sorting Hat's song surprised Harry. Sarah had mentioned the sorting process but not that the hat could compose lyrics. As students were called alphabetically, Harry watched each house react to their new members, noting the different temperaments. "Potter, Harry," McGonagall finally called. Whispers broke out across the hall. "Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter?" Harry walked forward, acutely conscious of hundreds of eyes tracking his movement. He sat on the stool, and the hat dropped over his eyes. Said a small voice in his ear. "Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a nice thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you? You've been shaped by unusual circumstances, haven't you? You can see that?" Harry thought, surprised. "Oh yes, I see everything in your head. Raised by a basilisk in Slytherin's chamber. In 1,000 years of sorting, I've never encountered such a unique upbringing. You've learned Slytherin's own secrets, yet you value courage and loyalty fiercely." Harry gripped the edges of the stool, thinking, I just want to belong somewhere. Belong. Interesting choice of words. You could belong in any house, you know. Gryffindor would nurture your bravery, Ravenclaw your intellect, Hufflepuff your loyalty. But Slytherin, in Slytherin you would find others who understand ambition and power, who might accept your unusual talents. I want to go where I can be myself, Harry thought. Where I won't have to hide everything I am. Be yourself? Then better be Slytherin. The hat shouted the last word to the entire hall. Harry removed it and stood, noticing the shocked silence before the Slytherin table erupted in cheers. As he walked toward them, he caught Dumbledore's thoughtful gaze and Professor Snape's utterly stunned expression. The Slytherin prefect who shook his hand introduced himself as Adrian Pusey. "Welcome to the House of Ambition, Potter. This is unexpected but certainly interesting." Harry took a seat beside a dark-skinned boy who introduced himself as Blaise Zabini. Draco Malfoy, further down the table, looked both surprised and calculating. The feast that followed was magnificent, though Harry found himself overwhelmed by the noise and constant attention. Students from all houses kept trying to get a look at him, and his own housemates peppered him with questions. "Is it true you disappeared for years? Did you really defeat the Dark Lord as a baby? Why did the Sorting Hat take so long with you?" Harry deflected most questions with vague answers. When the prefects finally led the first years to the Slytherin dormitories in the dungeons, he felt exhausted from more human interaction in one day than he'd had in years. The Slytherin common room sprawled beneath the lake, illuminated by greenish lamps. The prefects explained house rules, presenting a united front to other houses, settling internal disputes privately, and always showing proper decorum. "Slytherin has produced more great witches and wizards than any other house," Pusey informed them. "We expect you to uphold that tradition." Professor Snape arrived to deliver his start-of-term address, his dark eyes lingering on Harry. "You are now members of a house with a noble history," Snape said silkily. "A house often misunderstood and maligned by others. You will face prejudice. Some will assume that because you are Slytherin, you are dark wizards in training." His lip curled slightly. "Prove them wrong through excellence, not explanation. Slytherin rewards cunning, ambition, and resourcefulness. Demonstrate these qualities, and you will thrive here." With that, he swept from the room, his robes billowing dramatically. The first-year boys were shown to their dormitory, a room with 6 four-poster beds hung with green silk curtains. Harry's trunk had been placed beside one near the window, which looked out into the depths of the lake. As the other boys chatted while preparing for bed, Harry found himself missing the chamber's peaceful silence. Draco held court, already establishing himself as the dormitory leader, while Theodore Nott watched everyone with calculating eyes, and Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle grunted in agreement with whatever Draco said. "So, Potter," Draco eventually said, "no one really knows where you've been all these years. Care to share?" "Not particularly," Harry replied, drawing his curtains closed. Later that night, when the others were asleep, Harry slipped from his bed. The dormitory door opened silently to his touch, and he made his way through the deserted common room. Hogwarts corridors were familiar territory after years of nocturnal exploration. He reached the entrance to the chamber in minutes, descending through the pipes with practiced ease. Sarah was waiting in the main chamber, her massive form coiled expectantly. "Welcome back, little speaker," she greeted him. "Tell me of your sorting." Harry settled against her scales, the tension leaving his body as he recounted the day's events. "Slytherin," Sarah hissed approvingly. "Salazar would be pleased." "The hat said I could have gone to any house," Harry admitted. "But Slytherin felt right. Like I wouldn't have to hide as much there." "A wise choice. Slytherins understand discretion and self-preservation. They will be less likely to pry into your secrets." Harry nodded. "I should get back before anyone notices I'm gone. Sleep well, my hatchling. Remember, you now walk between 2 worlds. Each has value, each has dangers." Harry made it back to his dormitory undetected. As he drifted to sleep, he realized he was now officially a Hogwarts student, a Slytherin, and still Sarotha's adopted son. His life had become considerably more complicated. Classes began the next morning. Harry found himself the center of attention wherever he went. Students whispered as he passed, craned their necks to get a good look at his scar, and speculated loudly about his sorting into Slytherin. "Wasn't expecting that," he overheard one Hufflepuff tell another. The boy who lived in the House of Dark Wizards. Something's not right. His fellow Slytherins' reactions varied. Some, like Malfoy, attempted to forge alliances based on Harry's fame. Others, particularly older students, watched him with suspicion, as though trying to determine if he was truly one of them. Harry's unusual knowledge quickly became apparent in classes. In herbology, he recognized plants most first-years had never heard of, having used them in potions brewed in Slytherin's workshop. Professor Flitwick squeaked excitedly when Harry performed the levitation charm perfectly on his first attempt. Though Harry had been levitating objects wandlessly for years, the wand-based version felt clumsy by comparison. Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall presented a new challenge. While Harry's wandless magic had allowed him to transform objects through pure intent, McGonagall's scientific approach to transfiguration required precise wand movements and incantations. "Your technique is unusual, Mr. Potter," she observed after watching him turn a match into a needle. "You seem to be forcing the transformation through will rather than following the proper method." "Sorry, Professor," Harry said. "I'll try to do it correctly." McGonagall's lips thinned. "The result is perfect, which is what matters for now. But in more complex transfigurations, technique becomes critical. See me after class." When the other students left, McGonagall fixed Harry with a stern look. "Albus informed me of your unconventional upbringing. While your magical abilities are impressive, you must learn to work within established methods. Raw power without proper control can be dangerous." "Yes, Professor," Harry agreed. "It's just hard to unlearn what I've been doing for years." Her expression softened slightly. "I understand. Perhaps we can arrange some additional lessons to help you adapt." History of Magic proved to be the most disappointing class. Professor Binns, a ghost, droned on about goblin rebellions while most students dozed off. Harry, who had read Salazar Slytherin's first-hand accounts of the Hogwarts founding, found Binns' sanitized version frustrating. Defense against the dark arts should have been fascinating, but Professor Quirrell's stuttering lectures and the strange headache Harry developed in his presence made it nearly unbearable. Dangerous creatures are often misunderstood," Quirrell was saying one day. Take the Basilisk, for example. A most deadly serpent known to Wizardkind. Harry's attention sharpened. One glance from its eyes means instant death. No countercurse, no shield can block it. "Are there any basilisks left, Professor?" Draco asked. "Father says they've all been hunted to extinction." Mostly, yes," Quirrell replied. "Though our rumors persist of one beneath this very castle." Harry felt his blood freeze. How could Quirrell know? "Slytherin's monster," someone exclaimed. Quirrell nodded. "The Sea Chamber of Secrets is said to house such a creature, though no one has ever found it." The professor's pale eyes seemed to fix on Harry. "Fascinating how such creatures bond with those who speak their language." Harry's scar throbbed painfully. He raised his hand. "Professor, if basilisks are so dangerous, why weren't they always hunted? They must have some value, or they wouldn't have been bred in the first place." Quirrell's stutter seemed to lessen. "An excellent question, Mr. Potter. Basilisks were originally created as guardians for important magical sites. Their venom is also the most potent magical substance known, capable of destroying almost anything, or healing, in the right circumstances." After class, Theodore Nott fell into step beside Harry. "Interesting question about basilisks, Potter. Almost sounded like you were defending them." Harry shrugged. "Just curious." Quirrell made them sound one-dimensional. "Most dark creatures are more complex than textbooks suggest," Nott agreed. "My father's library has books on magical breeding. Basilisks weren't created as weapons originally, but as protectors." "Exactly," Harry said, surprised to find someone who understood. Nott gave him a calculating look. "You're not what I expected, Potter. None of us quite know what to make of you." "Good," Harry replied with a slight smile. I prefer it that way. Potions quickly became Harry's favorite class, despite Professor Snape's obvious ambivalence toward him. During their first lesson, Snape had questioned Harry relentlessly about advanced potion ingredients and reactions. Potter. What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? The draught of living death, sir, Harry answered promptly. Where would you look if I told you to find a bezoar? The stomach of a goat. It will save you from most poisons. What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? They're the same plant, also called aconite. Snape's eyes had narrowed. Correct on all counts. It seems fame isn't everything. In practical work, Harry's years of brewing in Slytherin's workshop gave him a significant advantage. His potions were consistently perfect, his technique efficient and precise. After one particularly successful lesson brewing a forgetfulness potion, Snape held Harry back. Your knowledge exceeds first-year level, Potter, the professor observed. Where did you learn such techniques? Harry chose his words carefully. I had access to some old potions texts. And lots of practice. Indeed. Snape studied him intently. The headmaster has been deliberately vague about your whereabouts before coming to Hogwarts. I find myself curious. I was somewhere safe, Harry said. Learning at my own pace. Under whose instruction? Harry met Snape's eyes steadily. Someone who values knowledge and survival above houses or prejudices. Something flickered in Snape's expression, surprise, perhaps. An unusual perspective for one so young. He paused. Your mother was exceptionally talented at potions. The mention of his mother caught Harry off guard. You knew her? We were in the same year, Snape said stiffly. Though in different houses. Before Harry could ask more questions, Snape dismissed him. That will be all, Potter. Do not be late to your next class. As weeks passed, Harry fell into a routine. Days spent attending classes and navigating the complex social hierarchies of Slytherin House, nights split between the dormitory and secret visits to Sarada. He maintained his distance from most students, though he developed a cautious rapport with Theodore Nott and Blaise Zabini, who respected his privacy. You're not what the stories said, Blaise remarked one evening in the common room. Everyone expected some Gryffindor golden boy. Stories rarely get things right, Harry replied, thinking of the books describing basilisks as mindless killers. His most surprising connection came from outside Slytherin. Hermione Granger, the bushy-haired Gryffindor from the train, cornered him in the library one afternoon. You're doing the charms essay wrong, she informed him, pointing to his parchment. Wand movement is clockwise for revealing charms, not counterclockwise. Harry glanced up, annoyed at the interruption. I'm not using the standard method. Instead of backing off, Hermione sat down opposite him. What method are you using? Intent-based casting with wand as focus rather than channel, Harry explained reluctantly. The wand movement becomes secondary if you visualize properly. Hermione's eyes widened. That's post-NEWT level theory. Where did you learn that? Books, Harry said vaguely. Which books? I've read everything in the first-year section of the library and haven't found anything like that. Not everything worth knowing is in the assigned sections, Harry replied. Instead of being offended, Hermione leaned forward eagerly. Will you show me? I've been trying to understand why some spells work better for me than others, even when I follow instructions perfectly. Harry hesitated. He'd been keeping his advanced knowledge private, but Hermione's genuine interest was hard to refuse. Why would a Gryffindor want help from a Slytherin? Because you know something I don't, she said simply. House rivalries shouldn't get in the way of learning. That response, so similar to something Sarada might say, convinced him. Harry spent the next hour explaining magical theory concepts typically reserved for much older students. Hermione proved a quick study, asking insightful questions and making connections Harry hadn't considered. By the time they finished, Harry found himself reluctantly respecting her intelligence. We should study together again, Hermione suggested as they packed up their books. I could help with the standard approaches, and you could teach me more about intent casting. Maybe, Harry said, non-committal but not entirely opposed. Word of their study session spread quickly. Ron Weasley confronted Hermione at dinner that evening, loud enough for Harry to overhear from the Slytherin table. Why were you helping Potter? He's a Slytherin. He's brilliant at magic, Hermione defended. And being in Slytherin doesn't automatically make someone evil. His whole house probably thinks you're just some mudblood, Ron argued, causing several nearby students to gasp at the slur. Harry didn't hear Hermione's response, but the hurt on her face was clear even from across the hall. Without really thinking, he left the Slytherin table and approached the Gryffindors. Conversation died as students noticed Harry Potter, Slytherin's most famous member, walking directly to the Gryffindor table. Hermione, he said calmly. I found that book I mentioned. About elemental influences on charm work. You're welcome to borrow it. He placed a slim volume beside her plate, ignoring the stunned expressions all around them. Thanks, Harry, Hermione said, her voice slightly choked. Ron's face had turned as red as his hair. What are you playing at, Potter? Sharing knowledge, Harry replied coolly. Something Hogwarts was founded for, before houses started behaving like rival tribes. He returned to the Slytherin table, where Draco immediately hissed, what was that about? Consorting with Gryffindor Muggleborns? I consort with whoever I find interesting, Harry said, loading his plate with roast chicken. Judge people by their minds, Malfoy, not their blood or house. You might learn something. Several older Slytherins within earshot exchanged significant looks. Harry Potter continued to defy expectations at every turn. October brought increasingly cold weather and Harry's first experience with Quidditch. During flying lessons, he discovered an innate talent for broomstick handling that impressed even Madame Hooch. Ever flown before, Potter? She asked after watching him execute a perfect sloth grip roll, a maneuver not typically attempted by beginners. No, ma'am, Harry answered honestly. But I'm comfortable with height and balance. Years of navigating the chamber's narrow ledges and pipes had given Harry exceptional spatial awareness. Flying felt natural, like an extension of the freedom he'd found exploring Hogwarts' hidden passages. Marcus Flint, the Slytherin team captain, approached Harry after witnessing his flying prowess during a practice session Harry had been watching. We need a seeker, Flint said bluntly. Higgs is adequate, but you've got the build and the skill. First years aren't allowed brooms, but Snape could make an exception. Harry was tempted. Flying gave him a rush unlike anything he'd experienced. I'll think about it, he promised. When he mentioned the offer to Sarah that night, the Basilisk seemed pleased. Flying is the closest humans come to a serpent's fluid movement, she observed. You should accept. It would help you bond with your housemates. Harry had been struggling with exactly that. While respected for his magical abilities and famous name, he remained an outsider in Slytherin. His unusual habits, disappearing at odd hours, knowing more than he should, befriending a Gryffindor Muggleborn, kept his housemates wary. After consulting with Professor Snape, who surprisingly supported the idea, Harry joined the Slytherin Quidditch team as their new seeker. The position suited his observational skills and quick reflexes, honed by years of navigating the chamber's dangers. His first match against Gryffindor proved more hazardous than expected. Midway through the game, Harry's broom began trying to buck him off, jerking violently hundreds of feet above the ground. As he clung desperately to the handle, Harry glimpsed Professor Quirrell staring at him without blinking, muttering continuously. His scar burned fiercely, but instinct told Harry not to break eye contact with the jinxed broom. Drawing on his magical gaze, Harry sent a pulse of energy through his eyes toward the broom. The connection between the jinx and the broomstick wavered. Harry poured more power into his gaze, sweat beading on his forehead from the effort. Suddenly, the broom steadied. Harry barely had time to recover before spotting the golden snitch hovering near the Gryffindor goalposts. He dove, catching it in a spectacular maneuver that left both teams stunned. Slytherin's victory celebration in the common room that night marked the first time Harry felt genuinely welcomed by his housemates. Even Draco clapped him on the shoulder, momentarily setting aside their rivalry. Later that evening, Harry slipped away to meet Saratha and describe the match. "Your broom was cursed," the Basilisk stated after hearing about the incident. "Someone wished you harm." "Quirrell," Harry said. "He was staring at me, and my scar hurt. But why would a professor try to kill me? Not all is as it seems at Hogwarts this year. I have sensed disturbances. Dark magic stirring." "What kind of disturbances?" "Something old and hungry moves through the castle at night. Something that should not be here." Harry frowned. "Can you tell what it is?" "No. The castle's magic interferes with my senses. But be wary, little speaker. Danger approaches from an unexpected direction." Halloween brought another unsettling incident. During the feast, Professor Quirrell burst into the Great Hall, announcing a troll in the dungeons before fainting dramatically. As prefects led students back to their dormitories, Harry remembered that Hermione had been crying in a bathroom all afternoon after Ron insulted her charms work. She wouldn't know about the troll. He slipped away from the Slytherin group, ignoring Draco's questions, and headed toward the girls' bathroom on the first floor where he'd overheard she was hiding. The smell reached him first, a foul stench of old socks and unwashed toilets. Then came the low grunting and shuffling footfalls of something massive. Harry pressed himself against the wall as the troll shambled past, 12 feet tall with granite-gray skin and a tiny head perched atop its boulder-like body. To his horror, it was entering the very bathroom where Hermione was hiding. A terrified scream confirmed his fears. Harry didn't hesitate. He rushed into the bathroom to find Hermione shrinking against the wall, the troll advancing with its club raised. "Hermione, move!" Harry shouted, activating his magical gaze. The troll turned toward him, momentarily confused by the glowing eyes. Drawing his wand, Harry sent a powerful cutting charm at the troll's club-wielding arm. The spell, fueled by his intent-based casting, sliced deeply into the troll's wrist. It howled in pain, dropping the club with a crash. "Come on!" Harry grabbed Hermione's arm, pulling her toward the door. But the troll, enraged, blocked their path. Harry raised his wand again, but Hermione had recovered enough to draw her own. Together, she cried. "Wingardium Leviosa!" Their combined levitation charms lifted the troll's massive club high above its head. Harry added a twist to the spell, accelerating the club's descent as they released it. It crashed onto the troll's skull with a sickening crack, and the beast toppled forward, unconscious. Moments later, Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell burst into the bathroom. McGonagall's face went white at the sight of the unconscious troll and 2 first-years standing over it. "What on earth were you thinking?" she demanded. "You could have been killed." Before Harry could explain, Hermione spoke up. "It's my fault, Professor. I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own. If Harry hadn't found me, I'd be dead." Harry stared at her in shock. Hermione Granger, telling a direct lie to a teacher to protect him? McGonagall seemed equally stunned. "Miss Granger, that was extremely foolish. 5 points from Gryffindor." She turned to Harry. "As for you, Mr. Potter, while it was reckless to go after Miss Granger alone, few first-years could take on a mountain troll and live to tell the tale. 5 points to Slytherin for sheer dumb luck." Professor Snape was examining Harry with narrowed eyes. Harry noticed the potions master's robes were torn and his leg was bleeding. Quirrell, meanwhile, avoided looking at either the troll or Harry. "You should return to your dormitories," McGonagall concluded. "The feast is continuing in the houses." As they left the bathroom, Hermione whispered, "Thank you for coming after me." "We're even now," Harry replied with a small smile. "You lied to McGonagall." "Yes, well, friends look out for each other," she said matter-of-factly. Friends. The concept felt foreign but not unwelcome. As Harry headed toward the dungeons, he realized his world had expanded yet again. November brought the first snowfall and increasing tensions within Slytherin House. Harry's unusual friendships and independent streak had created factions among his housemates, those who saw his power and connections as valuable, and those who considered him a traitor to Slytherin values. Draco led the latter group, increasingly vocal in his criticism. Potter thinks he's special, but he's just another half-blood with no respect for traditions. The rivalry escalated when Professor Snape paired them together in potions class. Their opposing approaches, Draco's textbook precision versus Harry's intuitive adjustments, led to constant bickering. "You can't just add the Valerian sprigs without counting properly," Draco hissed as Harry tossed 3 sprigs into their cauldron. "The recipe says 2, but this batch needs 3 based on the color," Harry explained. "Look at the reaction, it's perfect now. You can't just ignore instructions because you think you know better." "Actually, I can when I do know better." Harry stirred counterclockwise, ignoring Draco's protests. Their sleeping draft turned out flawless, earning them full marks but further straining their relationship. After class, Draco confronted Harry in the corridor. "Where did you really learn potions, Potter? No one picks up that kind of knowledge from books." "I had a good teacher," Harry said simply. "Who?" "Because it wasn't Snape, and you weren't at any magical school before Hogwarts." Harry started walking away. "Not everything has a simple explanation, Malfoy." "My father says there's something not right about you," Draco called after him. "Says Dumbledore's hiding your real history because it would shock people." Harry paused. "Your father doesn't know anything about me." "We'll see about that. Secrets don't stay buried forever, Potter." The threat lingered in Harry's mind as he made his way to the library that evening. The possibility of someone discovering Sarotha's existence kept him on edge. His concerns were temporarily forgotten when Hermione shared an intriguing discovery during their study session. "I've been researching Nicholas Flamel," she whispered, sliding a massive tome across the table. "Look what I found." The page described the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance capable of transforming metal into gold and producing the elixir of life, which granted immortality. Nicholas Flamel, its only known creator, had recently moved his stone to Hogwarts for safekeeping. "This is what's hidden in the 3rd-floor corridor," Hermione concluded. "The one Dumbledore warned everyone to avoid. Someone's trying to steal it, that's why there was a 3-headed dog guarding it." Harry frowned. "How do you know about the dog?" Hermione blushed. "Ron and I accidentally found it while hiding from Filch. But that's not important. What matters is someone let that troll in as a diversion to try reaching the stone." "Quirrell," Harry said immediately. "He announced the troll, but I saw Snape heading to the 3rd floor while everyone else went to the dungeons." "Professor Snape? You think he's after the stone?" Harry shook his head. "I think he was protecting it from whoever really wants it. My money's on Quirrell. Something's off about him." "The stuttering defense teacher?" Hermione looked skeptical. "Why would he want the stone?" "I don't know," Harry admitted. "But my instincts say he's dangerous. He'd nearly mentioned Sarotha's warnings about dark magic in the castle." Hermione was becoming a friend, but some secrets were too important to share. As Christmas approached, Harry faced a new dilemma. Most students would return home for the holidays, but he had no home beyond Hogwarts and the chamber. To his surprise, Professor Snape inquired about his plans after a potions class. "I assume you're remaining at the castle, Potter?" "Yes, sir. I have nowhere else to go." Something resembling sympathy flashed across Snape's features. "The headmaster suggested you might spend part of the break in Hogsmeade. A change of scenery while remaining within the castle's protective reach." Harry brightened at the prospect. "I'd like that. Arrangements will be made." Snape hesitated, then added, "Your mother also remained at Hogwarts during holidays." She found the castle at its most magical during Christmas. These small mentions of Lily Potter were the closest Snape came to kindness toward Harry, and he treasured each one. His mother remained a mystery, with most people focusing on his famous defeat of Voldemort rather than his parents as people. The castle emptied for the holidays, with only a handful of students remaining. Harry spent Christmas morning opening his first-ever proper presents, a hand-carved flute from Hagrid, the gamekeeper he'd befriended during visits to the forest edge, a rare book on defensive magic from Hermione, and an unexpected package containing a shimmering silvery cloak. The note accompanying the cloak read, "Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well." It wasn't signed, but Harry suspected Dumbledore. When he tried on the cloak, his body disappeared completely. An invisibility cloak, Sarah observed when he showed her later. And an extraordinary one. Most fade over time, but this one feels ancient and unchanged. It was my father's, Harry said, running the fluid material through his fingers. Something he actually touched. A valuable gift for one who moves between worlds, the Basilisk agreed. Use it wisely. The cloak proved useful immediately. Harry had been avoiding the library's restricted section due to Madame Pance's vigilance, but the invisibility cloak allowed him to browse forbidden texts at leisure. One night, while searching for information on Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry narrowly avoided capture by Filch. Escaping down a corridor, he slipped into an unused classroom and discovered a magnificent mirror standing in the center. An inscription carved around the top read, "Erist stra eru oit ube kafru oit anwosi." Stepping closer, Harry gasped. The mirror didn't show his reflection, instead, it revealed a crowd of people. A young woman with his exact shade of green eyes smiled at him, while a man with untamed black hair and glasses stood beside her, his hand on Harry's shoulder. "Mom. Dad?" Harry whispered, reaching toward the glass. Behind them stood dozens of others with Potter features or Lily's eyes. And there, at the edge of the group, a massive serpentine form partially visible, Sarah accepted as part of his family. "The Mirror of Erist," came Dumbledore's voice from behind him. "One of Hogwarts' more troublesome artifacts." Harry spun around. Even with his heightened senses, he hadn't heard the headmaster enter. "I didn't mean to intrude," he apologized. "Curiosity is no sin, Harry." Dumbledore moved beside him. "But this mirror gives neither knowledge nor truth. It shows only the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts." "I see my family," Harry said softly. "My parents, and everyone who cares about me, together." Dumbledore nodded sadly. The happiest man on earth would look in the mirror and see only himself, exactly as he is. "You, who have lived between worlds, desire them to merge, your past, present, and those you've lost, all accepting each other. Is that possible?" Harry asked. "Some parts, perhaps. Others remain beyond our reach." Dumbledore sighed. "The mirror will be moved tomorrow, Harry. I ask that you not seek it out again. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they saw, or been driven mad, never knowing if what it shows is real or even possible." Harry nodded reluctantly, taking a final look at his parents' faces before following Dumbledore from the room. "Sir," he asked as they walked, "did you know my parents well?" "I did. They were exceptional people, brave, intelligent, and kind. Your mother, especially, had a gift for seeing the best in others, even those who most people dismissed." "Professor Snape knew her too," Harry said. Dumbledore's step faltered slightly. "Indeed. They were childhood friends, though they grew apart at Hogwarts." "Has Severus spoken of her?" "Just bits and pieces. Nobody really talks about them as people, just as heroes who died fighting Voldemort." "A disservice to their memory," Dumbledore agreed. "Perhaps during the remainder of the holiday, I could share some stories." Harry's face lit up. "I'd like that very much." The rest of the Christmas break passed pleasantly. Harry divided his time between the chamber with Sarah, hearing stories about his parents from Dumbledore, and exploring Hogsmeade Village with Hagrid as his guide. The gentle gamekeeper had taken a liking to Harry after discovering his affinity for creatures. During one visit to Hagrid's hut, Harry had calmed the injured Niffler with Parseltongue-infused whispers, not realizing Hagrid could hear the hissing undertones. "Yeah, got away with beasts," Hagrid had said admiringly. "Just like your mum. She could gentle the most skittish unicorn with a few soft words." By the time other students returned in January, Harry felt more settled in his dual existence. His nighttime visits to Sarah continued, though less frequently as his human relationships developed. The Basilisk encouraged this balance. "You must learn to navigate both worlds, little speaker. I will always be here, but your future lies partly among your own kind." Classes resumed with increased intensity as professors began preparing students for end-of-year exams. Harry maintained his position at the top of most classes, though Hermione gave him serious competition in everything except potions. Their friendship had solidified after the troll incident, expanding to include Neville Longbottom, whose knowledge of herbology complemented their study group. Ron Weasley occasionally joined them, having reluctantly accepted that Harry wasn't the Slytherin git he'd initially assumed. The unusual interhouse friendship drew attention, not all of it positive. Professor Quirrell seemed particularly interested, often watching their interactions in the library or Great Hall with an unreadable expression. During one defense against the dark arts class, Quirrell divided students into pairs for practicing shield charms. To everyone's surprise, he paired Harry with Ron. Mr. Potter, your shield first. Mr. W. Weasley will attempt the stinging hex. Harry produced a perfect shield on his first try, easily deflecting Ron's hex. When they switched roles, Harry deliberately held back, casting a mild version of the hex. Put some power into it, Mr. P. Potter, Quirrell instructed, moving closer. Mr. Weasley needs to experience a real attack to learn proper defense. I don't want to hurt him, Professor, Harry objected. A valid concern in practice, Quirrell acknowledged. Perhaps a demonstration. I shall shield, and you cast your strongest hex. The request seemed odd, but Harry nodded reluctantly. Quirrell raised his wand in a defensive position. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Potter. Harry cast the stinging hex with moderate force, still holding back. Quirrell deflected it easily. Come now, Mr. Potter. I know you're capable of more. Cast it as though facing a real threat. Something in Quirrell's tone made Harry uneasy. The professor's stutter had almost disappeared, and his eyes held an intensity Harry hadn't noticed before. Try again, Quirrell commanded. With feeling this time. Harry raised his wand, then made a split-second decision. Instead of the stinging hex, he cast a modified version of a spell he'd learned from Slytherin's library, one that revealed magical disguises. Aprio verum, he shouted. The spell hit Quirrell's shield and shattered it, washing over the professor like blue fire. For an instant, Harry glimpsed something horrifying, a second face on the back of Quirrell's head, pale and snake-like with glowing red eyes. His scar exploded in agony. Harry dropped to his knees, vision swimming as students cried out in alarm. Class dismissed. Quirrell barked, all trace of his stutter gone. Potter, remain behind. As students filed out, concerned and confused, Harry struggled to his feet. Ron hesitated at the door until Quirrell's glare drove him away. When they were alone, Quirrell approached slowly, his wand raised. That was not the assigned spell, Potter. Interesting choice. Harry backed away, his own wand ready. What's on the back of your head, Professor? Quirrell laughed, a cold sound unlike his usual nervous giggle. Clever boy. Too clever for your own good. How did you know to look for a disguise? You've been watching me all year, Harry said. And my scar hurts whenever you're nearby. Does it now? How fascinating. Quirrell reached up to unwrap his purple turban. I suppose proper introductions are in order. As the turban fell away, Quirrell turned, revealing the nightmarish face on the back of his head. Flat and chalk-white with slits for nostrils and burning red eyes. "Voldemort," Harry whispered. "Yes," the face hissed. "See what I have become. Shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But you could help me, Harry Potter. You who have accessed Salazar's secrets." "You killed my parents," Harry said, activating his magical gaze as he backed toward the door. "They died because they opposed me," Voldemort replied. "But you need not make their mistake. Join me, tell me how to use the stone, and I can bring them back." "You're lying," Harry said. "No magic can resurrect the dead." "No ordinary magic," Voldemort agreed. "But I have gone further than anyone down the path to immortality. Help me regain my body, and I will share secrets even your basilisk mother doesn't know." Harry froze. "What did you say?" Voldemort's lipless mouth formed a terrible smile. "Did you think your little secret was safe? I am the heir of Slytherin, boy. I commanded the basilisk before you were born. I can feel her presence even now, coiled beneath the castle." Horror washed over Harry. "You're Tom Riddle." "I was, once. Before I became so much more." Voldemort's eyes gleamed. "She told you about me, did she?" "The girl's death was merely an accident, a test of loyalty." "What has Sarah told you of our conversations?" "That you used her as a weapon," Harry spat. "That you twisted her purpose." "I awakened her true nature," Voldemort corrected. "As I could awaken yours. We are alike, Harry Potter. Both orphans, both Parselmouths, both raised in unlikely circumstances. But I can offer you what Dumbledore never will, the truth about your heritage." Harry's mind raced. He needed to escape, to warn Dumbledore, to protect Sarah. But Quirrell blocked the only exit, and the classroom's windows were too small to climb through. "What truth?" he asked, playing for time while edging sideways. "The Potters descend from the Peverils, who trace their line back to Slytherin himself," Voldemort revealed. "You are not merely a Parselmouth by chance or because of our connection. The ability runs in your veins by birthright." This news staggered Harry. Could he truly be a descendant of Salazar Slytherin? It would explain his natural affinity for the chamber and its magic. "Even if that's true," Harry said, "it doesn't change what you are, a murderer who betrayed his own house's principles." Voldemort's eyes narrowed. "You speak bravely for one so vulnerable. Quirrell, seize him." The professor lunged forward. Harry ducked under his arm and fired a stunning spell, but Quirrell deflected it easily. "Foolish child," Voldemort hissed. "You cannot hope to defeat us." Harry backed against the wall, mind frantically searching for options. In desperation, he activated his full magical gaze, pouring all his power into his eyes. The effect was immediate and shocking. Quirrell screamed, clutching his face as though burned. "Master! I cannot touch him." "Then kill him from a distance, you fool!" Voldemort commanded. Quirrell raised his wand, but Harry was faster. Drawing on all his training, he cast the most powerful disarming charm he could muster. The spell hit Quirrell square in the chest, sending him crashing into the desks. Harry sprinted for the door, wrenching it open just as Quirrell recovered. He raced through the corridors toward Dumbledore's office, ignoring the startled expressions of students he passed. The stone gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office refused to move without a password. Harry pounded on it frantically. "Please. I need to see Professor Dumbledore. It's an emergency." To his relief, the gargoyle leapt aside. But instead of Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall descended the spiral staircase. "Mr. Potter. What is the meaning of this commotion?" "Professor, where's Dumbledore?" Harry gasped. "I need to speak with him right away." The headmaster received an urgent owl from the Ministry of Magic and left immediately for London, McGonagall replied. "What's happened?" You look terrible. It's Quirrell, Harry said, deciding honesty was his only option. He's working with Voldemort. They're after the Philosopher's Stone. McGonagall's face went white. How do you know about the stone? That doesn't matter. Voldemort is here, in the castle, on the back of Quirrell's head. I just saw him. Mr. Potter, this is a very serious accusation, please, Harry interrupted. Send an owl to Dumbledore. Check on the stone. Do something. McGonagall studied his face, seeming to recognize his genuine terror. Come with me, she said decisively. We'll speak to Professor Snape. They hurried to the dungeons, finding Snape in his office grading papers. McGonagall quickly explained Harry's claims. Snape's expression darkened as he rolled up his left sleeve, revealing a faint mark on his forearm, a skull with a snake protruding from its mouth. It's growing stronger, he said grimly. I've suspected interference with the protections around the stone. If the Dark Lord has possessed Quirrell, find him, McGonagall ordered. I'll alert the other heads of house and strengthen the enchantments on the third-floor corridor. Mr. Potter, you are to remain here until we return. But, Harry began. No arguments, McGonagall said firmly. If what you say is true, you're in grave danger. After they left, Harry paced Snape's office anxiously. Voldemort knew about Sarah. If he reached her before Harry could warn her. The decision was made in seconds. Harry slipped from Snape's office and headed for the nearest entrance to the chamber. He had to reach Sarah first. The passages felt longer than ever as he raced through them, calling for the Basilisk in urgent Parseltongue. When he finally reached the main chamber, Sarah was already alert, her massive body tensed. I sense a disturbance, little speaker. Another presence approaching these chambers. It's Tom Riddle, Harry panted. He's back, he's Voldemort, and he knows about you. He's possessed our defense teacher. Saratha's hiss was like ice water. The Dark One returns. After all these years. He wants the Philosopher's Stone hidden in the castle. And he mentioned you, said he commanded you before. He did not command me, Sarah corrected, anger evident in her voice. He controlled me through ancient bindings. There is a difference. A noise from one of the tunnels made them both freeze. Footsteps approached, accompanied by labored breathing. Hide, Harry, Sarah ordered. Whatever happens, do not reveal yourself. Harry ducked behind a pillar just as Professor Quirrell emerged into the chamber, his turban gone, the face of Voldemort clearly visible on the back of his head. Magnificent, Voldemort's high, cold voice echoed. She remains exactly as I left her. Quirrell turned so Voldemort faced the Basilisk directly. Great Serpent of Slytherin, I have returned to claim my birthright. Bow before the heir of your creator. Sarah remained motionless, her killing gaze safely covered by her membrane. You do not respond. Voldemort sounded amused. Perhaps you need reminding of your place. Quirrell, the spell. The professor raised his wand, beginning a complex incantation in Parseltongue, words Harry didn't recognize but that made Sarah writhe in apparent pain. The binding spell, she hissed, too softly for Quirrell to hear. Resist, Harry. Do not interfere yet. I command you to reveal the chamber's secrets, Voldemort ordered as Quirrell continued the spell. Where is the boy, Sarah? Where is Harry Potter? The Basilisk gave no sign she heard him, though her massive body continued to twist in discomfort. Stubborn creature, Voldemort spat. The binding has weakened over time. No matter, I know another way. Quirrell's free hand reached into his robes, withdrawing a gleaming silver dagger etched with serpentine runes. Basilisk blood, freely given or forcefully taken, can break any enchantment, Voldemort explained. Including those hiding the Philosopher's Stone. Your cooperation would be preferable, but not necessary. As Quirrell approached with the dagger, Harry could stay hidden no longer. He stepped from behind the pillar, wand raised. Get away from her. Quirrell spun around, surprise on his face, while Voldemort laughed coldly. The boy protects his serpent mother. How touching. The red eyes gleamed. Did I not tell you he would be here, Quirrell? Where else would he run when threatened? Leave, Harry, Quirrell ordered, looking almost pitying. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me when you threaten my family, Harry replied, activating his magical gaze. Voldemort studied the glow in Harry's eyes with interest. You've learned to use the basilisk stare. Impressive. But ultimately futile against me. Harry kept his wand trained on Quirrell. I've alerted Dumbledore. He's probably back at the castle by now. A lie, Voldemort said confidently. Dumbledore remains in London, believing the Minister of Magic summoned him. By the time he realizes the deception, I will have both the stone and your basilisk's blood. Harry glanced at Saratha, who had recovered somewhat from the binding spell's effects. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. You won't have either, Harry declared. Saratha doesn't answer to you anymore. We shall see. Voldemort turned Quirrell's head toward the basilisk. Great serpent of Slytherin, by the blood of your creator that flows in my veins, I command you to kill Harry Potter. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Saratha began to move, not toward Harry, but toward Quirrell. He is not the true heir, she hissed in Parseltongue loud enough for all to hear. His blood is corrupted, his soul fractured. I serve the speaker who treats me with respect, not commands. Voldemort's face contorted with rage. You dare defy me? The greatest wizard who ever lived. She dares, Harry replied, stepping forward to stand beside Saratha. And so do I. Quirrell raised his wand, but before he could cast a spell, a magnificent burst of flame appeared in the center of the chamber. Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, materialized with the sorting hat clutched in his talons. The bird dropped the hat at Harry's feet before landing on Saratha's head in a gesture that defied all natural order. Phoenix and Basilisk, traditional enemies, momentarily united. What is this? Voldemort hissed. Dumbledore's pet comes to your rescue. Harry picked up the sorting hat, uncertain of its purpose until he felt something hard inside. Reaching in, his fingers closed around a silver hilt. He pulled, and a magnificent sword slid out, ruby-encrusted and engraved with the name, Godric Gryffindor. Impossible, Voldemort whispered. Gryffindor's sword answers to you. Harry held the blade with surprising steadiness. I told you I don't just belong to one house or one world. Enough delays. Voldemort snarled. Quirrell, kill them both. The professor launched a barrage of deadly curses. Harry deflected some with the sword, which seemed to absorb the magic, while Saratha moved with surprising speed to shield him from others. Fawkes swooped at Quirrell's face, talons aiming for his eyes. The distraction gave Harry the opening he needed. He lunged forward, not with the sword but with his bare hand, grabbing Quirrell's wand arm. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. Quirrell's flesh began to blister and crack where Harry touched him, as though burned by acid. The professor screamed in agony, trying to pull away. What magic is this? Voldemort shrieked as Quirrell's arm crumbled to ash. Love, came Dumbledore's voice from the chamber entrance. The one power you have never understood, Tom. The headmaster strode forward, power radiating from him like heat from a furnace. Quirrell collapsed to his knees, his body disintegrating wherever Harry's touch had reached. Voldemort's face twisted in fury and fear. With a terrible wrenching sound, a smoky form tore itself from Quirrell's dying body, a wraith-like shadow with burning red eyes. It hovered for one moment, fixing Harry with a look of pure hatred. This is not the end, Potter, the shade of Voldemort hissed. There are worse things than death waiting for you. The spectre shot toward the ceiling and vanished through the stone, leaving Quirrell's empty husk crumpled on the chamber floor. Harry staggered, suddenly exhausted. Dumbledore caught him before he could fall. Well done, Harry, the headmaster said softly. Extraordinarily well done. Sarah slithered closer, her enormous head lowering to Harry's level. You are injured, little speaker. I'll be okay, Harry assured her, though his scar throbbed painfully. Dumbledore surveyed the basilisk with new respect. It seems I have underestimated your bond. Fawkes certainly recognizes a kindred spirit in you, Sarah. The phoenix trilled in agreement from where he now perched on Dumbledore's shoulder. How did you know to come here, Professor? Harry asked. Fawkes warned me of the deception, Dumbledore explained. And I have long suspected the chamber's location, though I could not access it without a Parselmouth. When I returned to find both you and Professor Quirrell missing, this seemed the most likely scenario. He gestured to Gryffindor's sword, still clutched in Harry's hand. That, however, was unexpected. The sword presents itself only to a true Gryffindor in times of need. But I'm in Slytherin, Harry said, confused. Perhaps, Dumbledore mused, the sword recognizes that our choices define us more than our houses. You chose courage over self-preservation today, Harry. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Harry turned to Sarah. Will you be safe? If Voldemort returns, I am safer now than ever before, the basilisk assured him. The binding spell is broken permanently. No heir may command me against my will again. Dumbledore observed their exchange with fascination. A remarkable creature. I believe I owe both of you an apology for my initial concerns about your relationship. In the weeks that followed, Harry split his recovery time between the hospital wing and the chamber. Dumbledore explained that his mother's sacrifice had placed a protective charm on Harry. Voldemort, who could not understand love, couldn't bear to touch someone marked by such powerful magic. The official story given to the school was that Professor Quirrell had suffered a nervous breakdown and attempted to steal a valuable artifact from Dumbledore before fleeing the castle. Only a select few knew the truth, that Voldemort had briefly returned, that Harry had faced him in Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets, and that a basilisk had helped save the Philosopher's Stone. The stone itself was destroyed by mutual agreement between Dumbledore and its creator, Nicholas Flamel. After all, the headmaster told Harry, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. As the school year wound to a close, Harry found himself in Dumbledore's office discussing summer arrangements. I don't want to return to the Dursleys, Harry stated firmly. And I won't leave Sarah alone for months. I would not suggest either option, Dumbledore assured him. After recent events, I believe the safest place for you remains Hogwarts. We can arrange for you to stay, officially as my ward. Harry's face lit up. I can stay. All summer. Indeed. Though I would suggest dividing your time between the chamber and the castle proper. Too much isolation isn't healthy, even with such a magnificent guardian. On the final day of term, Harry joined the other students for the end-of-year feast. To everyone's shock, Slytherin's commanding lead in the House Cup standings was overtaken at the last moment by Dumbledore's announcement, recent events must be taken into account. I have some last-minute points to award. To Mr. Harry Potter, for pure nerve and outstanding courage in the face of unprecedented danger, I award Slytherin House 60 points. The Slytherin table erupted in cheers. For once, even Draco looked at Harry with something approaching respect. Later, as students boarded the Hogwarts Express for the journey home, Hermione hugged Harry goodbye on the platform. You'll write, won't you? She asked anxiously. Let me know how your summer goes. Of course, Harry promised. And maybe you can visit sometime. Dumbledore said I might have friends over later in the summer. I'd like that, she smiled. Take care of yourself, Harry. And, say hello to your special friend for me. Harry stared at her. What do you mean? Hermione rolled her eyes. I figured it out ages ago. The way you disappear at night, your knowledge of the castle's secrets, your affinity for serpents. Don't worry, I haven't told anyone and I won't. Before Harry could respond, she kissed his cheek quickly and hurried onto the train. As the Hogwarts Express pulled away, Harry walked back to the castle alone but not lonely. Above him towered the place that had become his true home. Below waited Saratha, his first family. And somewhere in between, he had found his place, not fully in either world but building bridges between them. The boy who lived had become something more complex, the speaker of serpents, the Basilisk's heir, the wizard who walked between worlds. That night, deep in the chamber, Harry curled against Saratha's scales as he had countless times before. "You have grown this year, little speaker," she observed. "Not in size, but in spirit." "I feel different," Harry admitted. "Like I've found parts of myself I didn't know were missing." "That is the gift of walking two paths. You see with more than one set of eyes." Harry drifted toward sleep, content in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring new books to study, new magic to master, and the freedom to be his true self, heir to both Slytherin's secrets and his parents' legacy. On the castle's 7th floor, Professor Albus Dumbledore stood at a window overlooking the grounds. The protections around Hogwarts had been strengthened, but Voldemort's shade had escaped to gather strength elsewhere. "The board is set," the headmaster murmured to Fawkes. "And Harry Potter proves to be a more unpredictable piece than anyone anticipated." The phoenix trilled softly in response. Below them, far beneath the foundations of Hogwarts, a message appeared in blood-red letters on the wall of a forgotten corridor. "The chamber has been opened, the heir has been chosen, secrets long buried shall rise again." Chapter 3, Heir of Two Legacies. Harry's second year at Hogwarts started with a mystery. He'd spent a peaceful summer dividing his time between Saratha in the chamber and exploring the empty castle above. With most staff away, he'd mapped previously inaccessible areas, practiced advanced spellwork in abandoned classrooms, and even flown his broom through the Great Hall when Filch wasn't looking. But 3 days before students were due to return, Harry discovered something alarming in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, words scrawled in what looked like blood across the mirrors. "The heir returns, the chamber will be opened again, enemies of the heir beware." "I didn't write this," Harry told Dumbledore when the headmaster investigated. "And Saratha hasn't left the main chamber except to hunt in the forest through the passage you secured." "I believe you, Harry," Dumbledore replied, examining the writing. "This magic feels familiar, yet distant. Like an echo." The message was removed before students arrived, but Harry couldn't shake his uneasiness. Someone else knew about the chamber, someone who considered themselves an heir. The Hogwarts Express brought students back on September 1st, including a beaming Hermione who hugged Harry fiercely in the entrance hall. "I've got so much to tell you. My parents took me to France, and I found this amazing bookshop in magical Paris where they had, let him breathe, Granger," came Blaise Zabini's amused voice as he approached with Theodore Nott. "Potter, good summer." "The best," Harry confirmed, falling into step with his Slytherin housemates while Hermione reluctantly headed toward the Gryffindor table. "How was Italy?" "Hot," Blaise replied. "Mother's new husband has a villa on the coast. Nice place to practice water-based spellwork without the ministry noticing." At the Slytherin table, Draco was holding court, showing off expensive new school supplies while a small red-headed girl at the Gryffindor table watched with obvious envy. "Who's that?" Harry asked, nodding toward her. "Weasley's little sister," Theodore explained. "First year. Father says the Weasleys had to sell their furniture to buy her school robes." Harry frowned at the casual cruelty but said nothing. His relationship with the Slytherins remained complex. They respected his power and status, if not always his choices and friends. The sorting ceremony placed Ginny Weasley in Gryffindor as expected. But Harry's attention was drawn to the staff table, where Gilderoy Lockhart sat in resplendent turquoise robes, beaming at students. "Our new defense professor," Blaise muttered. "Mother dated him briefly. Says he's brilliant at memory charms but hopeless at everything else." "Great," Harry sighed. After Quirrell, he'd hoped for someone competent. Dumbledore's welcoming speech included a cryptic warning: "Remember that Hogwarts holds many secrets, but not all should be sought out. Curiosity must be tempered with caution." His twinkling eyes briefly met Harry's, confirming the message was partly meant for him. Later that night, Harry slipped down to the chamber for a promised visit with Sarah. The castle fills again, the basilisk observed as Harry settled against her scales. You seem troubled, little speaker. Someone wrote a message about the chamber and the heir, Harry explained. But it wasn't me. Saratha's massive body tensed. What exactly did this message say? When Harry repeated the words, the basilisk let out a soft, troubled hiss. Those are the same words Tom Riddle used when he first commanded me to kill. This is no coincidence, Harry. Something of Riddle remains in the castle. But how? Voldemort fled after Quirrell died. I do not know. But you must be vigilant. Tom Riddle was persuasive. He could make others see his vision, follow his path, even against their better judgment. Harry nodded, promising to be careful. As he prepared to return to his dormitory, Sarah added one more warning: watch for signs of possession among the students. Riddle's influence often begins subtly: fatigue, missing time, personality changes. These may indicate his growing control. Classes began the next day. Lockhart proved even more insufferable than anticipated, starting his first lesson by releasing Cornish pixies that wreaked havoc until Hermione froze them with a clever immobilizing charm. Excellent strategy, Miss Granger. Lockhart beamed, as though he'd planned the chaos. 10 points to Gryffindor for quick thinking. That's exactly what I would have done. What? Create a problem and let others solve it. Harry muttered, earning snickers from nearby Slytherins. Potions remained Harry's strongest subject. Professor Snape had stopped questioning his unusual knowledge and instead set him increasingly complex brewing challenges. The standard strengthening solution is adequate for most purposes, Snape told the class while examining Harry's perfect potion. However, those with additional aptitude might research variations using salamander blood instead of flobberworm mucus. The results can be most illuminating. Harry recognized the hint and spent that evening in Slytherin's workshop testing the modification. The resulting ruby-red potion was twice as potent as the original. 2 weeks into term, Harry noticed something odd while helping Neville in the greenhouse: dirt under Ginny Weasley's fingernails and a vacant expression that vanished when she realized he was watching her. That same night, Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, was found petrified beside another bloody message: the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir beware. Students gathered in shocked silence as teachers examined the scene. Harry pushed through the crowd, heart pounding when he spotted a small puddle of water beneath the cat. Reflective surface, he whispered, understanding immediately. The cat had seen the basilisk's reflection, not a direct gaze, which would have killed her, but enough to petrify. But how? Sarah hadn't left the chamber. Everyone return to your dormitories, Dumbledore ordered. Prefects, escort your houses. Mr. Potter, a moment. When the corridor emptied, Dumbledore turned to Harry with grave concern. I assume Sarah remains where she should be? Yes, Harry confirmed. I was with her last night, and she promised not to roam the castle. This wasn't her. Then it appears we have another situation on our hands, Dumbledore said grimly. One basilisk we trust, and potentially another we do not. Harry shook his head. There's no second basilisk. I'd sense it. This is something else, maybe someone using Slytherin's secrets against us. Keep your eyes open, Harry, Dumbledore advised. You understand these matters better than most. The school buzzed with rumors about the Chamber of Secrets. Harry overheard multiple versions of the legend, most painting Slytherin as a bigoted monster breeder. More disturbing were the whispers suggesting Harry himself might be the heir, given his Parseltongue ability and Slytherin house placement. They're saying you're behind it, Hermione informed him bluntly during their study session. Because you can talk to snakes. Harry nearly dropped his quill. How do they know about that? I've been careful. Neville mentioned seeing you hissing at a garden snake last herbology lesson, she explained. Word spread. Great, Harry muttered. Now half the school thinks I'm setting a monster on people. Hermione studied him carefully. You know something about what's happening, don't you? Why would you think that? Because you keep disappearing to research obscure magical texts, you have access to places in the castle no one else does, and you didn't look surprised when Mrs. Norris was found, she counted off on her fingers. Also, you have a secret that involves the lower levels of the castle. Harry sighed. Hermione was too perceptive for his comfort. I know some things, he admitted. But not enough. I'm trying to figure it out before anyone else gets hurt. Let me help, she offered immediately. Two minds are better than one. Harry hesitated. Saratha's existence remained his most closely guarded secret, but he trusted Hermione more than almost anyone. Maybe soon, he compromised. When I understand more about what we're dealing with. Later that day, Harry discovered Colin Creevey, an enthusiastic first-year Gryffindor with a camera, petrified near the kitchens. The boy's camera had been melted from the inside, as though something terrible had been captured on film. This time, Dumbledore requested Harry bring Saratha to a secret meeting in an abandoned dungeon chamber. The arrangements were complex, corridors cleared, mirrors covered, and Fawkes present as both witness and precaution. Saratha arrived through a concealed pipe entrance, her massive form barely fitting through the opening. The situation grows dire, she observed after hearing about the second attack. This has Tom Riddle's signature, subtle yet theatrical, designed to create fear. Could another Parselmouth be commanding a different serpent? Dumbledore asked, Harry translating. No. I would sense another of my kind. This is something else, perhaps an artifact or echo of Riddle's power. Harry recalled the ominous messages. Is there a way Riddle could have left part of himself behind in the castle? Something that could act independently. Saratha's body went rigid. There are ways to preserve consciousness beyond death. Dark methods involving the fracturing of one's soul. Dumbledore's expression darkened at these words. You speak of Horcruxes. You know of them? Saratha seemed surprised. I have researched Tom's path extensively, Dumbledore admitted. It is a possibility I had considered but hoped was not the case. What's a Horcrux? Harry asked. Dumbledore and Saratha exchanged a look that transcended species. A topic for another time, perhaps. For now, we must focus on identifying how Tom is acting within the castle. They agreed to increase patrols, Harry using his invisibility cloak and magical sensing abilities to monitor corridors at night, while professors took shifts guarding key areas. A week passed without incident. Then, during a particularly chaotic dueling club session led by Lockhart and Snape, disaster struck. Draco Malfoy, paired against Harry for a demonstration, cast a spell that conjured a black snake. The serpent, agitated by the crowd's screams, lunged toward Justin Finch-Fletchley. Leave him. Harry commanded instinctively in Parseltongue. The snake froze, turning toward Harry with sudden docility. But the damage was done, everyone had heard him speak the serpent language. So it's true, Justin said, backing away with horror. You are the heir of Slytherin. The room erupted in fearful whispers. Harry looked to Snape, whose face revealed nothing, then to Hermione, who looked troubled but not afraid. I was telling it to stop, Harry tried explaining, but students were already backing away. That evening, the Slytherin common room treated Harry with new deference, while other houses openly avoided him in corridors. Only Hermione, Neville, and surprisingly, Blaise and Theodore maintained normal relations. This works in our favor, Blaise pointed out as they sat in a quiet corner of the library. Let them fear you. It builds useful leverage. I don't want leverage, Harry said, frustrated. I want to stop whatever's attacking people before someone dies. Hermione arrived, dropping a heavy book on their table. I've been researching basilisks, she announced without preamble. Harry nearly choked. Theodore raised an eyebrow, while Blaise looked intrigued. An obscure interest, Granger, Theodore commented. Not really, she countered. Petrification, spiders fleeing the castle, roosters being killed, all signs point to a basilisk. But I can't figure out how it's moving around without being seen. Harry's mind raced. Hermione had pieced together the basilisk connection without knowing about Sarah. She was dangerously close to the truth. Pipes, he said suddenly, the realization clicking. It could use the plumbing. Hermione's eyes widened. Of course. That explains everything. Not quite, Blaise interjected. Who's controlling it? Potter here is the only Parselmouth at Hogwarts, and he's been with us during attacks. Someone else must be giving orders indirectly, Hermione reasoned. Through an object or enchantment. Theodore nodded thoughtfully. My father mentioned something similar happening 50 years ago. A girl died, and they blamed a student who was expelled. Hagrid, Harry said, remembering Sarotha's story about Tom Riddle framing someone else for Myrtle's death. They expelled the wrong person. That night, Harry shared these developments with Sarotha. Your friend is clever, the basilisk observed. But mistaken in one crucial aspect. I am not attacking students. Someone is using Slytherin magic to create the effect of a basilisk's gaze. How is that possible? There are darker versions of your magical gaze, spells that can channel a killing sight through vessels or reflections. Tom was researching such magic before he left Hogwarts. Harry considered this. So someone's using Riddle's research to simulate basilisk attacks. But why? And how are they connected to Riddle? Find the vessel, Harry. Whatever carries Tom's influence will be the key. The next day brought a breakthrough from an unexpected source. Ginny Weasley approached Harry after breakfast, clutching a small black book and looking terrified. I need help, she whispered, her face pale. I think I'm going mad. Harry led her to an empty classroom, where she thrust the diary into his hands. I found it among my school books. When I wrote in it, it wrote back. It calls itself Tom Riddle. Her voice broke. I think I've been doing things, terrible things, when I black out. Harry stared at the innocuous-looking diary, feeling a cold certainty. This belongs to Tom Riddle. Ginny nodded miserably. He was my friend at first, understanding and kind. But lately I've been losing time, waking up with rooster feathers and paint on my hands. And I can't remember where I've been. Classic possession symptoms, just as Sarotha had warned. Harry carefully opened the diary, finding only blank pages with T.M. Riddle stamped on the first page. You did the right thing bringing this to me, he assured her. This diary is dangerous. Can you help me? Ginny pleaded. I'm scared. I'll take care of it, Harry promised. Try to rest. The blackouts should stop now that you don't have the diary. After sending Ginny to the hospital wing for a calming draft, Harry wrapped the diary in his robe and headed straight for Dumbledore's office. But halfway there, he felt a sudden, overwhelming compulsion to open it. His fingers moved against his will, opening the diary and retrieving a quill from his bag. Before he could stop himself, he wrote, My name is Harry Potter. The words shimmered on the page before sinking into the paper. New words formed, Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. I've been waiting to meet you. Harry tried to close the book, but his hands refused to obey. Instead, they wrote, What do you want? To show you the truth. About who you are. About who we are. The diary began to glow, and Harry felt himself being pulled forward. The world spun around him, and suddenly he was standing in Hogwarts, but different, older. A tall, handsome boy with dark hair approached. Though younger, his features were unmistakable from the face on the back of Quirrell's head. Welcome, Harry, Tom Riddle said, smiling coldly. To my memory. Harry reached for his wand, but it wasn't there. What is this place? A preserved memory of my 5th year at Hogwarts, Riddle explained, circling Harry. The year I discovered my heritage as Slytherin's true heir. You're not the only heir, Harry countered. I'm a Parselmouth too. Yes, fascinating, isn't it? 2 heirs in one castle. Riddle's dark eyes gleamed. But only one can command Slytherin's legacy. The scene shifted, showing Tom opening the Chamber of Secrets, commanding a younger Seratha to attack a student. You used her as a weapon, Harry said angrily. That wasn't what Slytherin intended. Wasn't it? Riddle laughed. Salazar built the chamber to purge the school of those unworthy to study magic. I merely fulfilled his vision. You twisted it, Harry insisted. Slytherin wanted to protect magical children during witch hunts, not kill Muggleborns. Riddle looked surprised. You've been speaking with her. The Great Serpent has filled your head with revisionist history. She told me the truth. You forced her to kill against her will. Basilisks have no will beyond their masters, Riddle countered. They are weapons, tools of the heir's purpose. Harry felt the pull of the memory weakening. You're wrong about Seratha. And you're wrong about me. I'll destroy this diary. You can try, Riddle smiled. But I'm already growing stronger. The girl poured so much of herself into me, her fears, her secrets, her very soul. Soon I'll be strong enough to return properly. With tremendous effort, Harry wrenched himself free of the memory. He found himself on his knees in the corridor, the diary open before him. Without hesitation, he slammed it shut and ran for Dumbledore's office. The headmaster listened gravely as Harry explained the diary and its connection to Ginny. This confirms my worst fears, Dumbledore said, examining the diary through a golden instrument that emitted soft whistles. Tom created a Horcrux, a receptacle containing a piece of his soul. That's why it can possess people. Because part of Riddle is actually inside it. Precisely. The diary allows Tom to control others, drawing life force to strengthen himself. Dumbledore sighed heavily. I've suspected Voldemort created Horcruxes to ensure his immortality. This diary may be just one of several. How do we destroy it? Harry asked. Few substances can destroy a Horcrux. Basilisk venom is among them. Dumbledore gave Harry a significant look. Harry understood immediately. Seratha could bite it. But would that harm her? The venom would destroy the fragment of soul, not the basilisk producing it. Dumbledore handed the diary back to Harry. But we must be cautious. Tom will resist. Before Harry could leave, the office door burst open. Professor McGonagall entered, her face ashen. Albus, there's been another attack. A double petrification, Miss Granger and Miss Clearwater. Harry's blood went cold. Hermione? McGonagall nodded grimly. Found near the library with a mirror. It appears they were checking reflections before turning corners. She figured it out, Harry whispered. She knew it was a basilisk. After McGonagall left, Dumbledore turned to Harry. We must act quickly. Tom's power grows with each attack. I'll take the diary to Seratha tonight, Harry promised. We'll destroy it. But when Harry returned to his dormitory to retrieve his invisibility cloak, he discovered the diary missing from his bag. Looking for this? Draco Malfoy stood in the doorway, holding the black book. Interesting reading, Potter. Or should I call you heir of Slytherin? Give that back, Malfoy. It's dangerous. I know exactly what it is, Draco replied, his eyes strange and unfocused. Tom told me all about you. How you've befriended Slytherin's monster instead of using it for its true purpose. Tom's possessing you, Harry realized. Fight it, Draco. Tom's showing me the truth, Malfoy countered, backing toward the door. About pureblood supremacy, about my family's rightful place. He's the greatest wizard who ever lived. He's using you, Harry insisted, taking a careful step forward. Just like he used Ginny. Something flickered in Draco's eyes, a moment of doubt. Ginny Weasley? What does she have to do with this? The diary possessed her first. Made her release whatever's attacking students. Draco looked at the diary in confusion. That's not. Tom said I was special, chosen. Harry seized the opening. He tells everyone that. It's how he manipulates people. He told me the same thing 20 minutes ago. Doubt crossed Draco's face, but then his expression hardened again. You're lying. Tom says you'll try to confuse me. That you want the chamber's power for yourself. I already have access to the chamber, Harry admitted, hoping honesty might break through. I've been there since I was 5 years old. Sarah the Basilisk, raised me. Tom tried to use her to kill students 50 years ago. Now he's doing it again through that diary. Draco stared, shock momentarily overriding Tom's influence. You're serious. You actually were raised by a basilisk. Yes. And I need that diary to stop the attacks before someone dies. Harry extended his hand. Please, Draco. For a moment, it seemed Malfoy might comply. Then his face contorted with rage that wasn't his own. Liar, he snarled in a voice unlike his normal drawl. You'll destroy everything. Clutching the diary to his chest, Draco fled the dormitory. Harry grabbed his invisibility cloak and chased after him, but Malfoy had vanished by the time he reached the common room. Harry immediately headed for Dumbledore's office, but the headmaster was gone, called to the ministry according to a flustered Professor McGonagall. It's urgent, Harry insisted. Malfoy has the diary, and he's being possessed. Mr. Potter, the school is in crisis, McGonagall replied sharply. The Board of Governors has suspended Professor Dumbledore pending investigation of these attacks. We're preparing to close Hogwarts. Harry realized he was on his own. He needed to find Draco before Riddle could force him to do something terrible. He raced to the chamber, finding Sarah alert and troubled. Dark magic saturates the castle, she hissed. Something ancient awakens. Harry quickly explained about the diary and Draco's possession. We need to find him before Riddle can fully take control. I cannot leave to search, Sarah reminded him. But perhaps we can draw them here. Tom always sought the chamber, it represents his claimed heritage, his power. How do we lure him? Saratha's tongue flicked thoughtfully. The girl, the one first possessed. Her connection to the diary remains. She could sense its location. Harry nodded. I'll get Ginny. He found her in the hospital wing, still pale but more lucid. When he explained the situation, she immediately volunteered to help. I want to stop him, she said fiercely. After what he made me do. Using Harry's invisibility cloak, they slipped through the castle. Ginny closed her eyes, concentrating on the lingering connection to the diary. This way, she whispered, leading him toward Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. He's taking it to the entrance. As they approached, they heard Draco's voice echoing from inside, but the words were in Parseltongue, a language Malfoy couldn't possibly know. The diary's taken over completely, Harry realized. Riddle's speaking through him now. They peered into the bathroom to see Draco standing before the sink that concealed the chamber entrance, the diary clutched in one hand, a struggling rooster in the other. What's he doing with that rooster? Ginny whispered. Destroying it, Harry explained grimly. Rooster crows are fatal to basilisks. Riddle's removing threats before fully awakening Slytherin's monster. Draco spoke again in Parseltongue, open. The sink receded, revealing the pipe entrance to the chamber. Stay here, Harry instructed Ginny. Get help if I'm not back in an hour. Tell them everything. I'm coming with you, she insisted. This is my fight too. Harry hesitated, then nodded. Stay behind me. If Riddle summons a serpent, don't look it in the eyes. They followed Draco into the chamber's entrance, sliding down the long pipe to the tunnel below. Harry led them silently through the winding passages, tracking Malfoy's progress by the echo of his footsteps. When they reached the main chamber, they found Draco standing before the massive statue of Salazar Slytherin. The diary floated before him, pages fluttering as inky smoke poured from its binding, coalescing into a semi-transparent figure, Tom Riddle, growing more solid by the moment. "Where is she?" Riddle demanded, his voice echoing. "The basilisk should be here." "I've hidden her from you," Harry announced, stepping forward with his wand drawn. "You won't use her again, Tom." Riddle turned, his handsome face lighting with malicious delight. "Harry Potter. And little Ginny Weasley too. How convenient, the three people connected to my diary, all in one place." Draco stood vacant-eyed beside Riddle, the diary still clutched in his hand. The possessed boy looked exhausted, his life force visibly draining to strengthen Riddle's manifestation. "Release Malfoy," Harry demanded. "Your quarrel is with me." "Oh, I'll be finished with young Draco soon enough," Riddle smiled. "His energy is nearly depleted. But before he dies, he'll help me summon Slytherin's beast." "She won't come," Harry stated confidently. "We'll see." Riddle turned to the statue, commanding in Parseltongue, "Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four." The statue's mouth began to open, a passage Harry knew led to Saratha's nesting chamber. He tensed, uncertain whether his guardian would appear. To his relief, the opening remained dark and silent. Riddle's face contorted with rage. "Impossible. The basilisk must obey the heir." "She only obeys those who respect her," Harry replied, edging closer. "Not those who see her as a weapon." "Then I'll create a new beast." Riddle snarled. He grabbed Draco's arm, placing his other hand on the diary. "The ritual requires a sacrifice. Young Malfoy will have the honor of fueling my return." Draco slumped to his knees as more life force visibly drained from him, flowing into both Riddle and the diary. The chamber trembled as dark magic saturated the air. "Stop!" Ginny cried, rushing forward despite Harry's warning. Riddle flicked his hand dismissively, sending her flying back against a pillar. "Wait your turn, Ginny dear. You'll be next." Harry needed help. He reached out with his mind, calling desperately to Saratha through their bond. "Please, I need you." Riddle's killing Draco. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a massive form shot from the statue's mouth, Saratha in all her glory, eyes safely covered but mouth open in a threatening display of fangs. "I come, little speaker," she hissed, positioning herself between Harry and Riddle. "Magnificent," Riddle breathed, momentarily distracted from his ritual. "You've grown even larger since I last commanded you." "I serve no master," Saratha replied coldly. "Least of all a soul fragment." Riddle's eyes narrowed. "We shall see." He began an incantation in Parseltongue, the binding spell Harry had witnessed Quirrell attempt the previous year. Saratha writhed in apparent pain but did not submit. "The binding fails, false heir. I have evolved beyond your control." Furious, Riddle intensified the spell, drawing more energy from Draco, who collapsed fully to the chamber floor. The diary glowed with sickly green light. The diary, Harry realized. That's the anchor for his power. He lunged for it, but Riddle intercepted him with surprising solidity, grabbing Harry's throat. "Not yet, Potter. I'm not finished with you." His grip tightened. "I want to know how you survived my elder self's attack. How did an infant defeat Lord Voldemort?" "Love," Harry gasped, echoing Dumbledore's explanation. "Something you'll never understand." Riddle laughed coldly. "Your mother's sacrifice. A temporary protection at best. But you're different in other ways." His eyes narrowed. "The basilisk raised you, taught you our language. You're almost my equal, despite your half-blood status." "I'm nothing like you," Harry spat. "No. We're both orphans, both Parselmouths, both connected to Slytherin's legacy." Riddle's eyes gleamed. "Join me, Harry. Together we could restore Salazar's vision. I would spare your precious serpent mother. Behind Riddle, Harry saw Ginny quietly crawling toward the discarded diary. He needed to keep Riddle talking. What vision? Killing Muggleborns? That's not what Slytherin wanted. Isn't it? Riddle released Harry, gesturing grandly. The chamber exists to purge the unworthy. Why build it otherwise? As a sanctuary, Harry countered. A place for magical children to hide during witch hunts. The basilisk was a guardian, not an executioner. Riddle seemed genuinely surprised. Is that what she told you? Fascinating revisionism. Ginny had almost reached the diary. Harry nodded subtly to Saratha, who slithered closer to Riddle. You were always blind to truth, Tom Riddle, the basilisk hissed. So focused on power that you missed wisdom. Wisdom? Riddle scoffed. I achieved what Salazar himself could not, immortality through the very creature he created. You're not immortal, Harry said. You're just a memory, a fragment. The real Voldemort is still hiding, too weak to face the world. Rage flashed across Riddle's face. I am Lord Voldemort. He rearranged the letters of his name in fiery script. Tom Marvolo Riddle became I am Lord Voldemort. The distraction was enough. Ginny grabbed the diary and slid it across the wet chamber floor toward Harry. No. Riddle lunged for it, but Saratha moved faster, placing her massive body between him and the book. Harry snatched up the diary. Now, Saratha. The basilisk struck with blinding speed, sinking a fang deep into the diary's cover. Ink poured from the book like blood, and a terrible scream filled the chamber as Riddle's form began to dissolve. This changes nothing, he shrieked as his body fragmented. I have other anchors. I cannot be destroyed. With a final, agonized cry, the memory of Tom Riddle vanished. The diary smoldered in Harry's hands, a basilisk fang still embedded through its center. Draco stirred weakly on the chamber floor as his life force returned. Ginny rushed to check on him, while Harry approached Saratha. You did it, he said gratefully, stroking her scales. You saved us. We did it together, little speaker, she corrected. As it should be. A soft trill announced Fawkes's arrival. The phoenix circled the chamber once before landing beside Draco, dropping healing tears onto the exhausted boy. How did you know to come? Harry asked the bird. Fawkes merely trilled again, gesturing with his wing toward the chamber entrance. There stood Dumbledore, accompanied by Professor Snape. It seems we arrived late for the excitement, the headmaster observed, surveying the scene. Though perhaps just in time for explanations. While Snape tended to Draco and Ginny with potions from his robes, Harry recounted everything, the diary, Riddle's possession of first Ginny then Draco, and the final confrontation. The basilisk venom destroyed the Horcrux, Dumbledore confirmed, examining the ruined diary. Tom's memory is gone, though as he said, I fear other anchors exist. Snape looked up from his patience. Draco will recover, though he'll need time in the hospital wing. As will Miss Weasley. And the attacks? Harry asked. Should cease entirely, Dumbledore assured him. The diary was the source of the false basilisk effects. A rather ingenious bit of dark magic, using Slytherin's reputation to conceal Tom's true methods. Saratha, who had been silent during these explanations, now addressed Dumbledore through Harry. The chamber has been compromised, she pointed out. If one student found the entrance, others may follow. Dumbledore nodded thoughtfully. A valid concern. Perhaps it's time we reconsidered the chamber's purpose. In the days that followed, Hogwarts gradually returned to normal. The petrified victims were revived with Mandrake restorative draft, including Hermione, who immediately demanded a complete explanation from Harry. You raised by a basilisk? All this time? She shook her head in disbelief. That explains so much about you. To Harry's surprise, she wasn't frightened by the revelation. Honestly, Harry, after everything, a friendly basilisk seems almost sensible. When can I meet her? Draco Malfoy's recovery took longer, the diary had drained him severely. When Harry visited him in the hospital wing, Draco seemed uncharacteristically subdued. Potter, he acknowledged weakly. They told me what happened. That you saved me. Anyone would have done the same, Harry said uncomfortably. No, they wouldn't. Draco stared at the ceiling. He showed me things, Potter. Terrible things he planned to do. And I almost helped him. That wasn't your fault. The diary was designed to possess people. But I was easy to manipulate, Draco admitted. All he had to do was promise power and recognition. Tell me I was special. He turned to face Harry directly. Were you serious about being raised by Slytherin's basilisk? Harry nodded. Since I was 5. No wonder you're so weird, Draco said, but without malice. Does she talk about Slytherin? The real Slytherin? All the time. He wasn't what the history books claim. Draco seemed to wrestle with himself before asking, would she talk to me sometime? About him? The request stunned Harry. You want to meet Sarah? Maybe. Someday. Draco looked away, embarrassed. When I'm not such a gullible idiot. The school year ended with an unusual announcement at the final feast. Dumbledore stood to address the students, his face solemn yet hopeful. This year has tested Hogwarts as few others have, he began. The Chamber of Secrets, long thought a myth, proved all too real. Yet from darkness came understanding. He explained that the creature responsible for the attacks had been destroyed, technically true, if one considered Riddle's memory the true culprit, and that the chamber itself would be repurposed. After consultation with the Board of Governors, we have decided to convert portions of the chamber into a secure archive for historically significant magical texts and artifacts. Other sections will become a sanctuary for magical creatures that require specialized environments. Murmurs of surprise and interest filled the great hall. Harry caught Dumbledore's subtle wink in his direction. This represents a reclamation of Salazar Slytherin's original intent, a space of learning and protection, not division and fear. The summer that followed brought dramatic changes to the chamber. Under Dumbledore's supervision, a team of cursebreakers and magical architects expanded and renovated the space, creating separate sections for different purposes. Sarah retained her private nesting area, while new chambers were established for the promised archive and creature sanctuary. Most importantly, Dumbledore commissioned special enchanted glasses that allowed select individuals to safely view a basilisk without risk of death or petrification. Rather like specialized sunglasses, he explained to Harry. They filter the killing gaze completely. This innovation allowed a small circle of trusted individuals to meet Sarah properly, Hermione, whose questions exhausted even the ancient basilisk, Professors McGonagall and Flitwick, who provided valuable insights on the chamber's reconstruction, and eventually, a still cautious Draco Malfoy, whose fascination with Slytherin's true history overcame his fear. By the time Harry's 3rd year at Hogwarts approached, the Chamber of Secrets had transformed from Hogwarts' most dangerous legend to its most unique resource. A secured entrance was established, though the original remained secret, allowing approved visitors while maintaining necessary protections. On the eve of term start, Harry sat with Sarah in what had become a comfortable study space within the chamber, complete with cushions and magical lighting. Everything's changed, he observed. 2 years ago, no one knew about you or this place. Now it's practically a school facility. Change is inevitable, Sarah replied philosophically. But the core remains. You are still my little speaker, even as you grow into a bridge between worlds. Do you regret it? Being discovered? No. The basilisk's massive head lowered to Harry's level. Isolation served its purpose when you were young and vulnerable. But your destiny lies in connecting paths once thought separate, human and serpent, dark and light, past and future. Harry leaned against her scales, feeling the same comfort they had provided since he was 5 years old. Riddle said we were alike. That scared me. Similarities exist, Saratha acknowledged. But where he sought to dominate both worlds, you seek to unite them. Where he viewed difference as weakness, you see it as strength. I still don't know exactly who I am, Harry admitted. Heir of Slytherin, boy who lived, wizard raised by a basilisk, it's a lot of identities to reconcile. You are Harry, Saratha said simply. My hatchling, now fledging into your own power. The labels matter less than the choices you make with that power. Above them, the castle stirred as preparations for the new term continued. Soon, students would arrive, classes would begin, and Harry would once again navigate his unique position between human society and his serpentine heritage. But for now, he remained in the peaceful chamber that had been his first true home, beside the basilisk who had become his most unlikely family, at the intersection of two worlds that were slowly, remarkably, learning to coexist. In his office, Dumbledore reviewed reports of Sirius Black's escape from Azkaban while contemplating the extraordinary developments in the chamber. An ancient basilisk, once Slytherin's weapon, now served as teacher and protector. A space built for purity had become a sanctuary for diversity. And at the center stood Harry Potter, not merely the boy who lived, but the speaker of serpents, heir to complementary legacies that might someday help heal the divisions that had plagued the wizarding world for centuries. Fascinating how paths converge, Dumbledore mused to Fawkes. Tom sought to conquer both worlds through fear. Harry reconciles them through understanding. The phoenix trilled softly in agreement as outside, a summer storm broke over Hogwarts, washing the ancient stones clean as a new chapter prepared to unfold. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.